What is up, everyone? We are back, and I hope you guys can hear me. I have no idea. Cooper, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right. I completely underestimated how much setup I was going to have to do because of everything I tore down. I didn't even think about that when I was setting the show up, and all of a sudden I realized, wait a second, I have a mic in front of me.
It took me like 5 minutes to unplug everything, and it took me like 2.5 hours to get it all set back up again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, this podcasting is real serious business. It's time consuming. Oh, speaking of time, it feels like forever ago that I was last sitting here in the Astrolabian throne. And today you guys have a last minute surprise bonus. Cooper is joining me. I didn't even know Cooper was going to be joining me until I was hitting go live on the stream, and I got a message asking me for the restream link. So Cooper, it's been a long time. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's been like a day and a half, 2 days or something.
Yeah.
You guys, I spent a week with Matt. More or less.
Yeah.
Torture, man. Torture.
Yeah, we almost killed each other.
I was starting to get a little irritated with him by like day 2.
So, yeah, it's part of the reason why we're doing an afternoon astrolabe today is because I got home about 1 a.m., a little after 1 a.m. This morning. After that, and that was the end of an 18-hour drive that followed an 11-hour drive that followed like a 9 or 10-hour drive. I did a lot of freaking driving in the last week. I don't want to drive again for a while.
Like how long was it? 4,000 miles or something like that?
Yeah, 4,000 miles about round trip.
Adventure.
13 states, I think. Let's see, I got Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, and then on the way back down, I came back down again. I went back up to Michigan to drop this loser off at his house, and then went down through Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then back through Arkansas and then into Texas again. First of all, okay, Appalachia is just next level beautiful. Genuinely, between Kentucky and Virginia. I mean, I don't know if the part of Kentucky that I was in is necessarily considered Appalachia. It maybe is a little bit out of it. I don't know. It was stunning. Just absolutely beautiful. It was kind of like for I know you didn't go through it, Cooper. So Kentucky was kind of like Virginia.
I've been to Kentucky before.
Okay, yeah. It was like Virginia, kind of, except with more rockiness.
Well, I went to Louisville, so that was like right there. I didn't get into Kentucky.
Okay, yeah. So you saw the river, which is really cool.
I did see the river,
the Ohio River, and then Louisville was interesting. I ended up taking a wrong turn and veered down and had to wander around the surface streets in Louisville, and it was like
it's a cool city.
It was the most aesthetic city I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I went there once for a couple of days, and it was, as far as cities go, because I'm used to like Lansing or Battle Creek or Flint, just shithole cities. Going through Louisville, it's like, at least when I went there a few years ago, it was like fairly clean. The architecture was pretty. It was laid out real nice. It was not a bad city.
Yeah, the cleanliness was what really stood out to me. Like as soon as I pulled down I was like right downtown, and there's like these big, huge brick buildings, and the sidewalks were all like nicely paved. They weren't all like busted up with like, you know, broken concrete and rebar sticking out of them and stuff. And the whole thing was just very aesthetic. It just felt clean. It felt like it
reminded me of downtown Grand Rapids when I went. Grand Rapids is probably the last holdout in Michigan as far as cities go that isn't just complete dog shit.
Yeah. Hazel? I don't know.
That sounds like one of the angels from the Book of Enoch that like tempted man and destroyed him. And
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking too. Says, I'm not on Twitter much. What were y'all doing down there? Well, if you're on Twitter, you probably wouldn't have known a whole lot more.
how much do we spoil?
I was thinking about that. Like,
I'm so excited.
I know I want to tell everyone everything, but there's got to be an element of suspense and surprise. Duffhead is in the chat. Duffhead was also there. So I'll say this. It was Cooper and me, and then the boys from the Curse World Problems podcast, which if you're not listening to it, what are you doing? Curse World Problems podcast. Colin and Justin. Yeah. Yes. So it was the Duff was there for about a day, and then Cooper and I were there for 3 days. It was 3 days driving there, 3 days there, and then 3 days driving back for me. And we'll say we're working on a project. We're working on a big project, something that we're hoping to launch next month. It may end up getting pushed a little further back. I don't know for sure. We've got a lot to do. We deemed the next approximately 6 weeks crunch hell, because it's a combination of crunch week and hell week, and that's what it's going to be. We're going to be slaving in the mines for you guys.
In the salt mines, an astronomical amount of content coming your way. You're gonna like it.
More
Maybe
content
like
than you can possibly conceive of.
Think about that.
Yes. Imagine 24/7 content. What would you do with that? Where could you possibly even handle that much? And it's not just going to be any content. It's going to be precisely tailored content designed just for your ear holes, to tickle your ear holes. So yeah, you guys, you can, between the references we made in the past to what we're saying now, you can probably start to put together a little bit of it. But it's going to be really exciting. The branding, the vibe, the aesthetic is just going to be absolutely off the charts. And toward that end, I would like to make a little a call to any of you out here. We are doing some research for science, and I tweeted this out yesterday. Shout out to all 134 people who have replied so far. This is fantastic. Give me more, please. I said, need some help from our little corner of X for science. Do me a favor and reply to this with your top 5 favorite music genres, plus one genre you will never listen to no matter what. And then please retweet this if your followers are also mostly our guys.
Are you going to make me a nice chart with this?
Someone is, yeah. Yeah, someone's going to make a nice chart.
Okay.
TBD who that someone is.
I volunteer you to make that chart.
Okay, well, my job is to volunteer people to do things. So as you volunteer me to make it, I will volunteer someone to make it for me. There's a link in the pinned chat, or the pinned message in the YouTube live chat here. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, do me a favor, go there. Don't post it in the chat. I mean, you could discuss it, whatever, if you want in the chat, but I'm not going to go back through and read the live chat. Please go reply to this tweet. Give us a little bit of insight into you. That will help us with our project. That'll be one of many ways that you will be able to contribute, should you want to. This will be the first of many. Those of you who are in the King Pill Discord have a much greater idea of exactly what's going on. We've gone into more detail in there. We also dropped some pictures from this last weekend. I may pull some out and tweet them out later, but that's where we gave a little bit more interaction.
Got any cool pictures to show the plebs?
Let me see. I don't really have. Let me think. How can I?
I was naked for a lot of them, so you probably can't show that on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, not you weren't the only one who was naked. I'm scrolling back up here to see if I might be able to just pull one of these.
Oh, by the way, guys, if you ever get the novel idea that renting a Tesla for a 4,000-mile road trip is a good idea, reconsider, because it sucks.
Well, it sucked for you, but I loved it. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. It would have been nice to have a newer one. With
Imagine having
better
to stop
range,
for a half an hour, every hour and a half, 2 hours. Gets a little tedious. Turns like an 8-hour drive into, like, I don't know, a 12-hour drive. Not
I like
worth
how
it.
these numbers get longer and longer every time you say it.
It turns like a 9-hour drive into like a 27-hour drive. It's not worth it.
Last night, like after, can I vamp here a little bit while I keep scrolling trying to find these pictures that I posted. You guys talk a lot in there. Kingpill.com if you guys want to become one of the elites. Last night, it was of all the states that I went through, it was surprising to me that I managed to do like 4,000 miles worth of driving and never once hit traffic, except for 3 times on my way out of Texas and 4 times once I came back into Texas. Texas was easily the least pleasant place to drive of all 13 states.
There's a little bit outside of Detroit.
Oh yeah, I guess there was a little bit there. Yeah, I wasn't driving, so it didn't register for me.
Yeah.
But the one nice thing though, once I got south of Dallas, it was dark. I'd passed most of the traffic, and the great thing about Texas is there's 75-mile-an-hour speed limits, and it's wide open and completely straight. So I set the cruise on 90 and just.
What's the deal with Ohio having 55-mile-per-hour speed limits on the turnpike? What's up with that? They make you pay. They make you drive slow. Everything sucks. This is the worst state in the union. No one should go there.
There was 55-mile-an-hour interstates in Indiana, too. And the funny thing about it is what I realized is Texas has the higher posted speed limits, and everyone in Texas drives really fast. But in all these other states, everyone drives really fast as well. They just go way faster than the posted speed limits. They basically drive like most car traffic is 80, 85. The trucks are like 70, 75. The weirdest thing was going on I-94 across the northern part of Indiana from like just south of Chicago over to the Michigan border. It's like a 6-lane highway, something like each direction. 55-mile-an-hour posted speed limits. The trucks go 75. The car traffic goes like 85 or 90. Why do they have 55-mile-an-hour posted speed limits? I don't understand this. Is this like the tendrils of the longhouse trying to impact whatever they can and just nobody gives a shit and just drives however fast they want? I don't get it. The worst so Ohio actually had some 70, 75-mile-an-hour posted speed limits. I'm still scrolling, by the way. I'm almost there. Here we go. Ohio had some 70, 75-mile-an-hour posted speed limits. The absolute worst state for driving in the country is Oregon. It's beautiful. Very, very beautiful state. But the highest posted speed limit anywhere in the state is 65. And most people go under that, and you will get pulled over if you go over it. Just the worst state. Okay. I finally found what I was going to share. So let's see if this works. You guys see that? I think.
Gang, gang, gang.
Yeah. I don't think I can make it any bigger, but we had to do a little posing. You got Justin and Colin. You got this retard here. You got the most handsome man on the screen, and then Duff. We played with some toys.
I look especially twinky
smoked some stoves. That's because you're standing next to some actual men.
Yeah, right. I thought you were gonna say giants, but no. Okay.
Yeah, there he is, Colin. Yeah, got the stoves going. I want to tell everyone. I want to, but I'm going to exercise just a little bit of discretion. You guys will know soon, and I think you're going to love it. Yeah, get hype, absolutely. Let me give a quick shout out to a conversation. We're going to reference this a little bit later here in the show, but if you haven't listened to it yet, as soon as this one is done, you should absolutely go listen to it. This one right here, my interview with Jason Miranchuk from Miranchuk Now last week. Trump is being installed. We talked about his prediction about Trump being installed. And if you're not listening to his shows, you've got to be. He's been doing a lot more regular live streams. They're very, very good. One of them, actually, I think I'm going to do a breakdown of part of it because I listened to it on my way up there and it gave me a whole bunch of thoughts. So definitely go listen to this. Trump is being installed. Also, the second part of my series with Emergent Perspective, the woke mind virus, is a Hanseatic League. This is the someone said the other day that this Emergent Perspective series that I'm doing is my version of Jason's Stormy series. And speaking of Stormy, you should also be listening to anything that he drops. The interviews that other people drop with him on them. In particular, the series on the robber barons that he's doing with Pete Quinones. This is our shout out our bros segment of this episode, and you absolutely you absolutely need to be listening to anything that Jason Miranchuk produces, who himself is working on some very interesting projects. That there's a video that he dropped this morning. He's been keeping me in the loop on what he's doing. So I've probably seen a little bit more than you guys have, but he just dropped one here today that I'm not going to play it here because you need to go give him the views. But the Marshall Plan monster revealed on Miranchuk Now. Go over here to Miranchuk Now on YouTube. Watch this one right here. The Marshall Plan monster revealed. The excellent work, the Lexcellent work of his producer, Lex DeBlanca, you must consume. All right, so I saw something about a deer flipping in the air here that Duffhead's talking about. Dudes, I didn't get to tell you all about watching a guy hit a deer at high speed on the way out the other day. It went flying. Whammo! The deer literally did flips in the air.
Was he okay?
Yeah, he says the guy was okay. He stopped to make sure.
I meant the deer.
Oh, the deer? Yeah, probably not. I'm guessing he wasn't. I know how that makes you feel. Okay, once again, click the link in the pinned chat. Go over to Twitter. Tell me your top 5 favorite music genres in no particular order, and then one genre that you will absolutely not listen to. So we got to start with a little slop, as usual. So let's slop it up. Speaking of music, did you see this? I posted this in our chat. Cooper, did you watch it yet?
No, it doesn't look familiar.
Okay.
I've not been keeping up on the happenings in the chat.
Well, I dropped it in the music chat.
Oh, well, I'm like 2 months behind on the music chat, downloading a bunch of shit, so I'm not there yet.
Oh, last night, what I forgot to say when I was driving, when I just stuck the cruise on 90 and was just flying down the highway in Texas, I was listening to the most aggressive EDM that I could find. Just the stuff that's like 180 BPM, and it's just super heavy, just and I'm just like, just driving on like pure hate and adrenaline, trying to keep myself awake. This is not super aggressive D&B. This guy says this is the dream. Thousands of dollars of equipment, tooting on a bizarre doohickey, making music that sounds like frogs. Listen to it. Vance says, Matt, this can go to one of my favorite genres.
Frog music.
Yeah, fart funk. He says, this one's even froggier, man. Just the glompiest, stinkiest mud music I've ever heard. God bless him. Listen to this. Very splinky.
We love our fish fans, don't we, folks? Yes, we do.
Oh no, the brown sound. We got the brown note going.
You ever been to a fish show?
No.
I haven't, but a good friend of mine's been to 2 or 3 now, and He said he walked into the arena and there was like 3 people on the floor just like twitching because they had just huffed a bunch of nitrous and fishing out.
His band name should be the Electric Brown. Bloingert Splink. Hazael here sounds like they were hanging out with us this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know. I threw this tweet in there. Bloop loops apparently is what he calls it. I could listen to a lot of this. This is not bad. I don't know if he's doing it seriously or doing it as a meme, but I could legitimately listen to that. They were snurfing their Bergens.
I think I'd get tired of this pretty quick. Because I just every time I heard it, I think of this stupid joke we were joking about all weekend.
Speaking of, this is it's going to take a little bit to get back into good podcasting, the good podcasting groove here, but I'm going to play the other video. Bear with me here just a second while I download this. And
is that the one I'm thinking of?
The one you're thinking of, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. That's good.
Worth playing, I think.
You guys like John Denver?
You should, because
crickets.
We're about to give you some something better than John Denver.
You know, you picked a bad time to start streaming. I literally just started my washer and dryer. So now I got to mute every time I'm done talking.
Well, what's going on here? Why won't this video open?
What's everyone been up to the past week? The last week off? Y'all been fiending?
I think
Jonesing?
they have. Oh, come on.
Astrolabia scratching at your neck.
I think it's not going to work. Actually, here, I know how I can make this work. By going here and going here. And I know this is just absolutely gripping.
Hazael had a date with a cute girl on Monday. How'd that go? Xavier's drunk in his Heiner. That's good.
Sorry, I'm fighting with my computer.
Yeah, you putting me in a weird position where I've got to like sit here and vamp, and I'm like, that's something I have.
It's like your favorite thing to do.
Yeah, like because I hate just like dead air.
I
can't stand it.
Yeah.
But I also like whenever there is dead air, my mind just gets just blank, like flatline sounds.
Your mind starts doing that like that blormpy music we were just listening to.
Yeah, it becomes impossible for me to think.
Okay, now let's see if this will work.
This is gonna be really stupid, guys. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah. Can you see that?
I can see it.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear it. Can you hear it?
I cannot hear anything.
Oh. All right. Forget it. Forget it. Can never have any fun here. Yeah, no sound. Okay. All right. I'll get it prepared and show you guys another way. It has to be Restream is kind of a pain, and I think I need to switch to OBS just because this is getting tiresome that I have to jump through all these hoops just to play something. All right. Let's move this on forward here. I've got one more little funny bit and then some clips of our president. I read this for you over the weekend, Cooper, but I figured I'd share it with everyone else. So you guys have probably seen this. One of the many differences between me and my husband. Me, the woman, oh, look, the last ripe peach. I'll save it for the kids. They love peaches so much. And him, oh, look, the last ripe peach. I'll use it as a special treat in my daily smoothie. So this guy's response to this had me rolling. He says, what happens in our house is that my wife buys some snack. Let's say there's 6 of them in the box. I eat one the first day. Then I eat one the second day. Then, because I'm a degenerate, I eat one on the third day, too. Now they're half gone and my wife still hasn't eaten any. I'm not sure why she bought them, frankly. Does she even like these things? Either way, I don't want to eat them all before she gets a chance, so I wait a couple days before I eat the fourth one. And then a few more days after that, I eat the fifth one. Now there's only one in the box, and I really don't want to have eaten them all without her getting one, so I wait like 2 weeks, and it's midnight, and everybody's asleep, and there are no other snacks, and I give in and consume the last one. Approximately 45 seconds after this happens, an alarm goes off in her brain, and she comes downstairs to finally eat the snack I've just finished.
Story of my life, man.
I read this to Cooper and his wife and almost started a fight. Why wouldn't you go buy more peaches? He says, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was the last box of oatmeal cream pies on Earth. Here I was thinking we lived in a modern economy with consistent supply chains, and you could enter any of a dozen grocery stores any day this week and buy as many boxes of oatmeal cream pies as your heart desires. If I had known that the product had in the last 10 minutes been discontinued, then I would have endorsed your plan to store our existing supplies indefinitely. You know, it's funny. It's actually almost the other way around with my wife and I. I'm notorious for buying something tasty and then just waiting until just the right time to eat it. You have the discipline to just leave it there, and I'll get to it when I'm ready to get to it. Meanwhile, my wife is like, "Why are you putting this in front of me? I have to eat it."
Yeah, right. That I'm probably more like your wife in that regard. That I don't keep things in the house that I have, because I don't have any self-control. I can't handle it. So if I have ice cream, I can't just like, I remember reading one of these fitness gurus on Twitter talking about like, it's okay to have like a third of a pint of ice cream a couple days a week or whatever. I'm like, nah, dude, I just like once every 2 weeks I buy a pint and I eat the whole thing in 5 minutes because I can't space it out like that. I don't know how people do that. But what I was gonna say regarding that comic strip, the chick who made those comic strips, do you think she's still married or are they divorced at this point?
Hopefully, for his sake, they're divorced.
Yeah.
That whole comic strip was someone said this was a throwback. Yeah, that was. I don't remember the first time I saw it. It was 5 years ago at least. I don't know, but she just had the worst. Her comic strips had Kamala Harris face.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
Feel it. Feel the resentment and the bitterness.
Uh-huh. And there's something that's really twisted about taking that really sick, nagging resentment and then trying to frame it in like this cutesy little Pinteresty way.
I could make the same comic strip and I could make it funny and lighthearted.
Mm-hmm. But
I also love my wife,
Right, yeah. The line that really makes it, I think, is she says, oh, look, the last ripe peach. I'll save it for the kids. They love peaches so much. Oh, she's going to save it for the kids. Meanwhile, the husband's going to eat it because, I don't know, there's food and this is my house and I buy food for my house and I need to eat something right now. So
and I have
going to
a
eat
whole
it.
basket full of fruit sitting right there on top of the pantry that the kids walk by about 56 times a day. And if they really wanted the peach, they would have grabbed it and they didn't. And it's been there for 3 days. So I'm going to eat it. Okay?
Yes, right.
And you fuckers are going to bitch about it. And I don't care. You can wait till Friday when we go get groceries. I'll have the last banana. Give me a
It's
break.
not like there isn't a grocery store literally 3 minutes away where if you're really jonesing for a peach, you can go grab a peach.
Yeah, and not to mention, I pay for your existence. You live here because of my benevolence.
Mm. We'll eat the fruit once all the candy is gone. Okay, this one's for my service members out there. I've played a video from this guy before, and I thought this one was funny. I can't remember if I found this one or if Josh Ham sent it to me. Josh Ham sends me this type of stuff. And you guys, if you want your stuff, if you find something that you think is funny and you'd like to see it featured on the ASTROLABE, then you can DM it to me on Twitter.com or X.com @RealKingPilled, and I might play your thing. Here's this one.
This is a caffeine suppository.
It's a caffeine what? I'm not sure I'm understanding you correctly.
You understood me correctly. It's caffeine for your asshole.
It is what I thought it is. Or was. Fuck. Keep this away from the infantrymen and combat jobs in the military. Keep it away from all service members. All right? You want normal service members, not butt caffeine service members. That is a dangerous service member. 1 minute you've got a normal one, then you give them some butt caffeine, and then they'll show you the meaning of speed.
This
Now, part of the reason I'm showing you this is a total scam. Why on earth do you need this whole shebang here for butt caffeine when you can just take a lip pillow?
Yeah, you could just be taking some Zins and popping them up there.
Yeah, just keistering them. The Zins are the ones that belong there. Just keister those fuckers and
more comfortable.
Yeah, you don't need to have this.
Bit.
Yeah, this thing. This is like half the size of her finger.
And is that like sharp edges? What's up with that?
I think it's a pouch. I hope to God that this is the little part
Silicone
in here
or something.
Yeah, it's like a little plug, I guess. If you have to stick these sharp edges, this plastic, like this stuff hurts your fingers. Putting this thing in my beehole is not going to happen. Just absolutely not. Now, get a nice little soft lip pillow, nice and cushy. Yeah, that might be another way to get it in there. One thing I noticed this weekend is that it makes you bleed for fast absorption. I typically when I pop a lip pillow, it typically goes into like the kind of front lower right side of my jaw. But this weekend I was kind of just sitting around whatever because I've got 40 hours to drive, and I started putting it in different places in my mouth. Yeah, no, haven't tried that one yet. But I put it just going from this side of my mouth to this side of my mouth changes the effect. It's like the gum level, the gum line gets, I don't know if it's saturated or suffused with nicotine or something, but you move it to the other side and it's more intense.
If I put it in the top, my top lip, it makes me start sneezing because it like starts messing with my nose. Making my nose
yeah? Yeah. Geneva suggestion says, I don't know, man. Give first Marty of butt caffeine and they'll carve a path straight to Beijing in a day and a half. Yeah, performance-enhancing drug. Okay. So I've got several different Trump clips here now, and then we're going to talk about the Trump being installed notion. This first one here is just for the lulz.
Are you a homosexual, Claire?
I am. Yes, Mr. Trump, I am.
No, is that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So you don't find Olive very attractive then?
No, I mean,
and you don't find Felicia very attractive?
They're beautiful women, but they're not my thing.
All right. That's why they have menus in restaurants, you know? I like steak, somebody else likes spaghetti. That's why they have menus in restaurants. It's a great world. Are you?
That's why I have menus in restaurants. There was a video a couple weeks ago. I didn't save it. I just saw it. Thought it was funny. Of him. He's at some event, and he's like, "All right, where are the gays for Trump? Gays for Trump. Where are you?" And one of the guys in the crowd is like, "Hey, here," and he goes, "Ah, oh, you don't look gay." Now this one here, this is aesthetics.
Okay, opening line when you walk out there.
So, right.
I mean, I was wondering what you were going to say. So I hear you go. I see the video. And you go up there and you go, "As I was saying."
Right.
Crowd goes from berserk or what?
They went, I would say, crazy.
And as I was saying.
Opening.
It's difficult to overstate just how effective this type of memeing is.
Banger.
It's so cool. And people want to be associated with things that are cool. Compare this to what I probably would have talked about if I hadn't been gone for the last week and a half. I probably would have been doing episodes on the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ads, the Gretchen Whitmer doing her mockery of the Eucharist with a Dorito, and the sheer cringe. The left can't meme. The left can't meme has extended to the evolved form of memeing. No longer is it just static picture memes. Now we've got video memes, and our guys have been powering up even more through the sheer quality of the video memes. There's So this interview, if you guys haven't watched this one with Andrew Schultz, I thought it was one of the best that Trump has ever done. He just absolutely commanded the whole, just commanded the room. These guys they found him hilarious. He's just so relatable. He's just so personable, very relaxed and comfortable, pure alpha Chad energy that everyone can just vibe off of it when they're around him. So you've got a bunch of these guys who are just kind of like ordinary lib dudes, but they're comedians. They can appreciate a good comedian. He's had this thing he started talking about lately called the weave. He brings it up in almost every conversation. He's like, the weave, I have the weave. They call it. Many people are saying it's brilliant. The weave. And what the weave is there's an actual term for it. I can't remember what it is in like NLP or whatever, where as you're talking down a subject and then you go down a little rabbit trail. And sometimes you go onto a rabbit trail off that rabbit trail and even a rabbit trail off that rabbit trail, but then you come back and you button them all up and come back to the original subject that you were talking about. It's a very difficult skill to master. I don't think a lot of people are just naturally good at it. You have to really focus to do that. I mean, I've doing conversations, podcast conversations and interviews and that sort of thing. I've had to do it a little bit. And you could do like maybe like 3 or 4 degrees of separation. So you've got 4 different open subjects that you're talking about. And then you have to button up number 4, then button up number 3, then button up number 2 and come back to number 1. But getting beyond that is really difficult. It requires a very agile mind, a lot of neuroplasticity. And Trump doing all of these podcasts has demonstrated that not only is he not psychologically going the way of Joe Biden, he's not even close. He's one of the most mentally agile people in the public eye. He has his thing where he's kind of a bit of a goober, but he's incredibly smart.
I recently read somewhere lurking on the Twitters that, and you probably know more about this than I, that Kamala was going to potentially be going on the Joe Rogan podcast. Is that true?
I don't know. It was leaked that it was a possibility. It's tough to tell whether it's actually a possibility or if it's just someone from her team leaking it for
I
try to
hope
create
that happens.
it. Yes,
that would be so awesome.
It's gonna be a career-defining moment for Rogan, even more than a Trump interview would be, because if Rogan is combative with Trump, then he'll come off well. If Rogan is obsequious with Trump, then like nobody's gonna care. But with Kamala, if Rogan doesn't press her, like assuming that she does go on there, if Rogan doesn't press her, he'll destroy his own credibility. If he does, she will absolutely collapse. She will completely cave in on herself. She's going to reveal that she has no ability to sustain a conversation. She started to do that. Did you see the Brett Baer interview that she did yesterday?
I didn't, but I heard it was disastrous.
Oh, it was a train wreck. She just doesn't know how to say anything. She can she can't actually, it's like she can't answer a question because there's nothing in there to answer it with. She doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff.
I remember on our way back from Virginia, we saw, I don't know how many freaking billboards that were saying like, Kamala Harris, she has a plan. And they'd list off the economy. She has a plan. This thing, that thing, the other thing. It was always followed by, she has a plan. She has a plan. But whenever anyone asked her, like, so what's your plan? Just like deer in headlights. Just silence. Or nonsense.
And her whole thing with Trump is that he has no plan. Meanwhile, he almost spends too much time talking about policy. He's got like detailed lists of all his different plans, all of his different. Somehow you're simultaneously supposed to believe he doesn't have a plan, and also his Project 2025 and deporting illegals and like all the things he's gonna do. So it's like, does he have a plan that is super scary and everyone should be super freaked out about it, or does he not have a plan? Trying to sell both of these things at the same time just is, it's just, her entire campaign is just like a grab bag of talking points that don't have any any substance to them. And this is beyond the level of a Bernie Sanders or an Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden. Like, if you said that they like don't have any substance, it's just talking points, they're in a completely different category even than she is. She literally just has lines that she recites.
Patrick
that she's
says
memorized.
She talks like she's giving a presentation that she put together last minute with zero research.
Yes.
You know, that's actually true. That's how I felt. Like, I remember being in high school, and you're the kid who shows up, and you know the teacher calls on you to answer the question about the book, and you didn't read the book, so you just got to kind of bullshit with something really generic that like everyone there is like, yeah, you didn't read this book, but
just filibuster with all the big words that you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Maybe it could pass for someone who hasn't read the book.
There's a video I had enough content for today's show, so I saved some stuff for tomorrow. So we'll talk a little bit more about this tomorrow. But we're going to get a little bit of the response to her in these different interviews that she's done. But there's all kinds of leaks coming out now about her campaign, her staffers and everything you can tell that she has an anger problem. Like, you can tell she's an extremely unpleasant, angry person. She's like a day drinker, like an angry day drinker personality, and maybe literally. And like, the thing she does care about is her perception. She wants to have the perception of the badass girl boss, and her entire political reputation is just going down in flames. She's being abandoned right and left and humiliated. It's becoming very clear that she is, as academic agent and Jason have both said, that she's a jobber. Like, her job is to go look terrible. And basically, by putting her in the position that she's in, and really, I think when you look back at this, like, the behind the scenes conversations could have been completely like nothing sorted. There's no decision, no agreement by the various different power brokers on how to move forward. And all it could have taken was one of her staffers, one person, one dorky theater kid millennial, to type up a document and tweet it out. And as soon as that happened, it forced this to happen. It forced them to replace him with her. It forced all of these people to all fall in behind him. So I don't even necessarily buy that this is like that her being put up there is a coordinated, planned conspiracy to end her as a political feature and not have to deal with her and just pave the road for, like, that's going to happen organically. People are going to come to that conclusion naturally. But I think you can't rule out the possibility that this coup was literally accomplished by somebody typing up a Word document and tweeting it from the president's Twitter account. Because once that's been done, like, you can't undo it. You can't say, oh, no, actually, he didn't resign. All the power brokers who are like trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do this, their phone starts blowing up and they see a tweet from Joe Biden saying that he's resigning or he's resigning his campaign and endorsing her, and everyone's just going to be forced to go along with that. Because what are the alternatives? The alternatives are to show that they're in complete disarray and they have no organization and everyone's fighting each other. They can't do that, so everyone naturally has to just fall in line. And if I had to bet, like, if someone put a gun to my head and forced me to bet, I would say that's pretty close to what happened. I don't think that this was I don't think it had formalized into a coordinated coup to throw him out and replace him with her. I think there were a lot of people who wanted him out, and then they wanted someone other than her. That's why there was so much debate and hemming and hawing and horse trading, and that's why there was so much back and forth. If people were just like, yeah, we'd rather have her than him, then it wouldn't have been a whole big hullabaloo. A lot of people wanted him out, but they wanted someone other than her because they know how bad she is. They know how hated she is. And don't ever forget all of the guys who are on the timeline blackpilling when Brat was a thing for like 5 minutes. Oh my God. Oh, look how great their social media game is. They're speaking to the young ones. We're doomed.
Did you listen to Tucker's interview with Mark Halperin?
Not yet, no.
Okay, well, they talked about a lot of what you're talking about right now.
They talk about the black pillars?
No. I mean, previous to that, like,
Hmm.
what was like trying to replace Biden without trying to figure out how to do it without getting her in there.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out. But in any case, man, I still got to get me one of those. I should do that before the election's over and they don't make them anymore. But I want one of those Trump is weird shirts so bad.
I wonder what sort of reactions you would get walking around in it.
I should do that with wear a MAGA hat too.
Yeah. Wear a dark MAGA hat with a Trump is weird shirt.
Yeah.
Ian Carroll says, did we get the Obama-Biden lip reading today? I saw a couple of people who were saying basically that that Biden said she's not as strong as I am, and I think as strong of a candidate. She's not as strong as I am, and Obama said yeah, and then he said there's still time or something like that. But both of them were I have a clip for it, and I'll play it in tomorrow's show. But they look very sad. It's very clear that the DNC is going up in flames. I've got some more clips here, and we're going to talk some more about the people who are abandoning the DNC ship.
If Trump doesn't completely dominate her, then come on, man. Like, what? It's low hanging fruit, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how even at this. Like, I understand how you got propaganda and you got all that bullshit, and there's going to be some cheating and yada yada yada. But the fact that it's a close race, again, qualifying that with there's probably a lot of bullshit and propaganda, obviously, but the idea that it's even possible that idea could be put out there, that it's a close race, is absurd to me. Trump should be just like graping her.
Yeah, this is so if you put yourself back in, like, rewind yourself 10 or 15 years ago when you looked at, remember the way that you looked at the whole political campaigning and different parties and the different candidates and what it meant to run a campaign and like what running for president was like back within the narrative bubble that most of us exited at some point over the past 10 or 15 years. And just objectively looking at this from like a very serious analysis, political science point of view, and comparing the merits of this candidate versus this candidate. If you had somebody who, I don't know, got lost in an Amazon jungle 20 years ago, or they have been in a coma for the last 20 years, and they just woke up, and they have no background, they didn't experience the last 10 or so years of derangement, and you just you just compared the two campaigns, they'd be like, how is this even close? Like, how are people even talking like this is going to be like the outcome is in doubt in some way? Because objectively, like on their merits, it's not even close. You have to, the only way you can possibly conceive of being close is through taking into account the whole mass media brainwashing. But the thing is that it's so not close that the mass media brainwashing is an own goal for the mass media. Because they're just, whatever tiny little credibility they had left, even with normies, is getting completely torched by having to try to possibly frame these as remotely comparable campaigns or remotely comparable candidates. He just keeps getting moments like this one.
I took in billions, hundreds of billions of dollars from China. Never happened before. And don't let that baby bother you, because it doesn't bother me. To me, it's that beautiful. Where is that baby? That's a good-looking baby. Don't worry about it, Mom. It doesn't bother me. You know what it means? Happy, youthful, beautiful baby, perfect baby. Thank you.
That's a good-looking baby. He doesn't have to do this kind of stuff. Like, this isn't... If he was doing this sort of thing as like a shtick for campaigning, he doesn't even have to. His campaign is dominating even without this sort of thing, and then he still goes and does it. And what for me, having been a big Trump fan and a big Trump fan for a long time, even before he ever ran, I found him incredibly entertaining. I used to watch Celebrity Apprentice with a roommate of mine in college. We would go get a large Little Caesars pizza each and a 2-liter of soda each, and we would sit and watch Celebrity Apprentice deep into the night.
How many drugs?
No drugs, really. It was we were very boring. Just pizza and soda. And just laugh our asses off at him. We're like, this is one of the funniest human beings alive. And I remember at the time, this would have been 2013-ish, maybe. He was like, Trump's going to run for president someday, and he's going to win. And I was like, he's not going to run for president. He's definitely not going to win. What are you talking about? How little I knew. I never could have imagined it. But him going and doing all these long-form podcasts, you talk about the reason, like, going and doing this is like the best way to get to white men. Young white men, like his core demographic. He's getting all of them with all the different podcasts that he's done. But I think you can't overstate, and maybe this is just me speaking from my own experience. I don't know how many people this relates for, but I think him going and doing all of these podcasts hasn't just been good for reaching new voters or securing those low propensity voters. It's made it really clear to me just how sincere he is, how sincere and authentic and upstanding, and how much character he has. I've gone from being kind of like, I find him entertaining, and I like a lot of what he's doing. I like a lot of the people around him, to like really genuinely enjoying him as a person and really liking and respecting him just as a person. Obviously, he's got all of his foibles, but his ability to just relate to people and the sorts of insights that he brings to bear, like, he makes for a really interesting podcast listen, not just because he's funny and it's like, holy crap, Donald Trump is the president and he's talking to Andrew Schultz or whatever, but like, he's genuinely a really smart, insightful person who I learned stuff from. Yeah, Kate says he's really grown in my eyes. Ryan says he went from a good tool to destroy the regime to likable. Yeah, Georgie says the podcast appearance almost seems like a victory lap. Here's some of the numbers. His interview with Aiden Ross. Now, this is as of 8 days ago. That's how far back into the bookmarks I had to go. Trump interview with Aiden Ross, 6 million views. Dr. Phil, 27 million views. Dave Ramsey, 5 million views. Theo Vaughn, 14 million views. Sean Ryan, 4 million views. Lex Friedman, 6 million views. Kamala interview on Call Her Daddy, 170,000 views. The joy is gone. There's just, it's complete lose-lose for her. If she goes and does an interview on one of her podcasts, nobody gives a shit. If she does an interview that gets millions and millions of views because it's with 60 Minutes or whatever, she looks terrible. They have to really obviously edit it and try to pare it down to make her even seem competent. And even after they edit it to make her seem competent or coherent, she's still terrible. CBS completely torched their reputation, what little bit of reputation they had left. And for what? To make her look like 0.5 out of 10 as opposed to 0.4 out of 10? Yeah, it just...
27 million is a lot of freaking views, man.
Yeah.
Dr. Phil.
Yeah, what is that?
That's like every boomer in America.
17, 20. So 35 million views for these other 5 and 27 million for that one alone. And if you compare these guys, the views that they're getting on those interviews compared to the views they get on other ones, it's not just like these are big audiences. They're like some of the biggest interviews that they've ever done individually because people are captivated by Trump. So Jason and Jason's the first one. I'll give him credit. Jason's the first one to really put his balls on the table and say Trump is being installed. I've had that intuition. I didn't want to go out on a limb and set myself up to be proven wrong because there's so many variables. So shout out to Jason for just LBJing it. But like at this point, over the past 2 or 3 weeks, if it hasn't become abundantly clear to you that he is being like, this isn't just like, oh, maybe he's going to win, but no, like people are pulling out the stops to make him win, to ensure he is going to win. He is being treated as the president already. Here's a great example of it. He revealed that Apple CEO Tim Cook, or Tim Apple, as Trump called him this morning to discuss outrageous fines imposed on Apple by the European Union. Why is Tim Cook calling Trump to talk to him about fines being imposed on Apple by the European Union? Why are major heads of state going to meet with Trump, like Keir Starmer? Why are they meeting with Trump? If this is going to be a real tight election, we don't know what's going to happen. She's the favorite, but he's the upstart. He might be able to overtake her again. Why are they spending their time on this? These people have a lot to do. Why are they spending their time talking to him about this? It's because they know he's coming.
Slosher makes a good point that people only care about any flubs she makes, and that's true. The only reason anybody watches Kamala at this point is to see how she, like, what stupid thing she says or how she fucks up.
Yeah. No one's showing up to listen to a Kamala interview because they think she's going to say something profound or insightful. It's just like, how is she going to screw it up this time? Yeah, why did FEMA brief Trump? He's being treated as the president. Let's play this clip.
And Tim Cook called me up directly, and he did it himself, didn't have to pay 10 cents, and I gave him 100% of what he wanted, because he was right. I mean, you can't compete with Samsung, and one's paying a tax. But I said, you got to gradually move your company here. But then 2 hours ago.
What he's referring to, he told the story in more detail in his interview with the Micklethwaite dude. It was a Chicago... it was in Chicago. It was like a conference for business leaders or economists or something. I don't remember. And this guy Micklethwaite was trying to have a combative, hostile interview with him, really trying to hold his feet to the fire. And Trump was just like a cat with a mouse, just batting him around. The guy kept trying. He says Gavin Newscomb, and the guy goes Newsom. And he's yeah, I call him Newscomb. He says, well, if any of the bunch of CEOs out here, if any of them were to say stuff like you, they would be censored and probably removed from their position. And he's like, yeah, none of them have been put through what I've been through. Like yes, lesser men are not allowed to do what I do. But every time he tried to combat Trump on stuff, he would get booed by the audience, and Trump got cheers over and over and over again. They just love him. But he talks about this. I think the guy asked him a question like, you're just listening to all the big business people, but what about the small people, the small business people? And he told a story about a small businessman that he did something for. If I can find a good way to go through that without getting the stream taken down, then it's a good interview to go through, because he's just on the top of his game. But he mentioned this, that Tim Apple came to him and said that there's a particular tariff issue that he was like, if you apply this to us, we're not going to be able to compete with Samsung. And he's like, well, Tim Cook's not a big fan of me, and I'm not a big fan of his company, but I'm also the president. It's my responsibility to represent him. So we listened to him make the case, and he's like, yeah, it's very obvious you're not going to be able to compete with Samsung on this base with this tariff with China or something like that. So he worked out an exception for him. And he went into lots of detail on a lot of these different things. If you're interested in knowing what Trump, the president, is actually like when it comes to negotiating with other leaders or business leaders or other politicians and stuff, he goes into a lot of detail. Like he's genuinely very, very good at his job.
3 hours ago, he called me. He said, I'd like to talk to you about something. What? He said, the European Union has just fined us $15 billion. I said, that's a lot. I know the feeling, because I get fined too in fake cases. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if his case is fake yet, but it's a lot. Then on top of that, they got fined by the European Union another $2 billion. So he's a $17 to $18 billion fine. I even said about Apple, can you pay that? I mean, do you have that guy? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money. And he said something that was interesting. He said they're using that to run their enterprise. I mean, Europe is their enterprise. And I said, that's a lot. He said, but Tim, I got to get elected first. But I'm not going to let them take advantage of our companies. That won't, be happening.
American business leaders trust Trump to get it done. I mean, if you strip away the politics, like when you get down to like a guy running a business and actually dealing with billions of dollars in fines or the actual doing of business, because there's the politics, there's the surface level, there's all the show, there's the people who have their different political leanings and their donations and all that sort of thing. But when it comes to actually doing business with serious stuff that matters, there's the major business leaders are going to side with the guy who can actually even have a conversation with them, ultimately. Like, they could actually have a conversation with Biden once upon a time, where they could actually have a serious conversation with him, or even Hillary. Like, they could actually relate on this wavelength. They were smart people. Kamala is retarded. She's very clearly just a patsy. There's nobody to go talk to. If Tim Apple is dealing with $18 billion in fines from the European Union, he's not going to get anything accomplished by going and talking to Kamala, even if she's the president. What's she going to do? How's she going to negotiate some sort of thing like that? Like, this is where politics gets real. When you're dealing with actual dollars and actual policy, which still exists. And there's people who want to live in that world. There's people who do live in that world. It's setting up just... The appointment of Kamala Harris as vice president was a really, really big mistake for the Democrats. Because they nuked their own future when they did that by tying themselves to Biden and then putting Kamala where she was. They put themselves in the position where if Biden, who's already early stage dementia, really goes off a cliff like he did, now they're tied to Kamala. They can't not move forward with her without destroying the morale of their own base. They nuked themselves. The Democrat Party is the outer party now. That's going to be formalized in the next few months. But it is the outer party. The Republicans are the new inner party. And it's probably going to last for 10 to 15 years, at least. There is a completely new political reality unfolding around us. And if you're still operating in the old world, then you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. Here's a couple other big evidences of this. I got to tweet this out a couple of times. Trump is being installed. Here's number one from Ben Braddock. He says, the new Time magazine cover that will be seen by tens of millions of voters at grocery checkouts around the country. Now, it turns out this wasn't actually a cover. This was just something that Mark Benioff, the owner of the Times, tweeted out as a cover. But it wasn't, and it was revealed as not actually a cover. But either way, Mark Benioff, who's like a key regime insider, the owner of the Times, quote, Harris declined repeated requests for an interview for the story. In contrast, Trump talked about his policy vision with a Time reporter for 90 minutes across 2 interviews. Biden spoke to Time at similar length before dropping out of the race. Yeah, Mark Benioff posted it. This was 2 months ago. Her moment. What changed? What changed in the last 2 months to go from this to this? Time magazine has officially fully thrown Kamala Harris under the bus. Do you think that they do this if they think that she's going to be the president? Knowing what Kamala Harris is like personally, if you think that she's going to be president and she's going to be in a position where she could fuck with you if she wanted to, do you do something like this? It's done. The election is decided. There is no will for fixing the election against Trump. All of the powerful people are aligning themselves with the eventuality of Trump as president. Eric Weinstein said, a feeling I've been keeping mostly to myself, this doesn't seem like an election year to me. I just don't see 2024 as a presidential election. I really don't know what this is and lack the language to describe it. Anyone else feeling like you don't know what we're watching? What you're watching is Trump is being installed. You heard it here first. Trump is being installed. You heard it here. This conversation Jason and I. Jason said it before that, but this is where we made it formal. Trump is being installed. There is going to be a Trump presidency. The question is what happens within that Trump presidency. It's no longer a question of what the outcome is going to be.
Man, that Jason guy, hasn't he really redeemed himself?
Yeah.
I remember when he first showed up to the King Belt server, I was like, what's this old dude doing here? This old boomer talking over me and rambling on and on and on and on. Man, this guy, I can't stand him. But he's really turned a new leaf recently.
Yeah.
Smart guy. You should pay attention to him. He's got interesting things to say every now and then.
The goat father.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him telling us several months back, like what he was going through at that point in time, like immigrating to Australia, dealing with all the fallout from COVID and everything, beginning to grapple with orthodoxy. He had a lot of shit going on back then, and I remember him. He'd come in and he'd be hammered. He'd be just really pugilistic.
I'll give him a pass.
Yeah. In retrospect, like you gotta give people time. He's now become one of my closest friends and one of the smartest people I know. Oh, return fire. If you're not listening to Mir and Chuck now, you are missing out. He is ahead of the curve. And we need to have another conversation, I think, Jason, because your episode that you did would have been last week sometime talking about the vengeful son, what that means, and everything like that. If I hadn't been driving, I would have been writing copious notes because you kicked off a bunch of thoughts. So we need to have another conversation about that. Jason's got some great stuff in the works as well. I get little teases every now and then, and what's coming down the pike. He's got his series with Stormy Waters, and there is more coming, both from Stormy and from some others that's covering a lot more than just the shadow economy.
Sweet.
Andrew says, now that he's clearly being installed, I hope they cheat spectacularly because that means they'll get caught and go to prison. Yeah, and I wouldn't, honestly, I wouldn't write off the, how would you say this? Voter fraud, pro-Trump voter fraud. Just like fudging the numbers, basically, just to make it happen. I wouldn't write it off. That at this point, that's how far it is. That it's going to happen. It doesn't matter how it's going to happen. It could be this, it could be that, it could be the other thing. You wouldn't even need it, really, but in some places, maybe you need it to combat the other efforts that are going on. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not claiming that it's happening, but it wouldn't shock me if it was. So now for how a couple of key constituencies are taking the Kamala collapse and her boss trying to bail her out and failing. Shout out to Paul Fahrenheit. $1.99 super chat. He says, love Astrolabe, needed tone shift. Thank you, sir. That is high praise. Go follow Paul Fahrenheit if you're not.
Jason says, stop fucking up like a 4-year-old and I'll stop talking to me.
He's got the best, he does the best grumpy old man.
Yeah.
So Trump talks about Obama on the PBD podcast. I've got some, this is the setup for several other things that we're going to watch. We'll watch this one first.
I kind of want to get your reaction on this talk that is given. Rob, if you can put that up.
And the reason some people think, well, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good because it was my economy. We had 75 straight months of job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I had spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time. So just in case everybody has a hazy memory, he didn't do nothing except those big tax cuts.
So how do you feel about this when you see him saying this last week?
I think he's angry. He pretends not to be, but I think he's an angry guy. He's a nasty guy. He's got a little bit of an edge, and he's angry about a lot of things. You look at what happened with Biden, and you look at what he did with Biden. He really hurt Biden because I'm not sure he wouldn't have imploded anyway. We had the debate, and he was down quite a bit, and they walked out, and they just took it away from him. I mean, if you think about it, they stole the election from a sitting president. That's, I always say coup, but the word coup, I don't think it's accurate enough. They just walked in and took it away from him. That is a legendary thing. He didn't want to give up. He's angry now. They're all angry, the Democrats, if you think. She's angry. They're both angry. But No, I watched that last week, and I think he spoke down to black men. I thought it was terrible the way he spoke to them.
Do you think it's effective? You think he still carries the same stick as he did, maybe 8 years ago or 12 years ago?
No, I don't think it is. No, I don't think he does. I think people have gotten smart. And no, I don't believe he does at all. I hadn't seen him. He's changed a lot. Visually, he's changed. I'd like to say visually as opposed to from the look standpoint, because, of course, looks don't matter anymore in politics. You say looks don't matter. It doesn't make any difference because we want to be politically correct, but they do matter. But he's changed. His look has changed actually quite a bit. I haven't seen him in a long time.
And by the way, Rob, I think that's even 4 years ago. I think it's even more than
yeah,
it is
Well,
today.
no, but the statement he just made was a couple of days ago. And
it was a couple of days ago. And it's similar to the statement he made back in 2012 when he told business owners, you didn't build that. Remember when he said that? I don't know if you remember that whole comment. I think this is the speech, Rob, if you want to play this.
If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
So this becomes a pattern of
communism.
Communism.
So communism, does that still hold a lot of sway with the boomers or something like that?
Yeah, I think it not just the
when
boomers.
You
I think
swim around in these kind of goofy circles that we do. A lot of these labels, they get thrown around a lot. They don't. You don't broke much about them anymore.
Yeah, like communism. When Trump uses it, and when people in that milieu use it, they're not talking about just strictly an economic system. Communism means resentful, bio-Leninist, leftist scum, and they're all of the evil and Luciferianism that's associated with that. That's what communism is. Their word for boogeyman, and Trump being willing to use it and using it in that way is an indication that this is the right-wing version of calling their enemies Nazis. It's this is the most evil, the worst possible political foe that you could imagine. That's their way of saying that. And there's plenty of normies, communism is the whole capitalism versus communism thing is they take that seriously. They think that that's a substantive difference because in their minds, communism versus capitalism, these are mouth sounds that they're making to stand as proxies for ugly, resentful, disgusting people running the show and trying to destroy everything versus attractive, noble, upstanding people running the show and trying to make everyone's lives better. That's the mind pictures that are in their minds when they say capitalism versus communism. So you just take it that way.
Yep.
So
good versus bad.
Yeah, right. Enemy, in group versus out group.
Did I ever tell the story about how I was talking to my neighbor and she's nice. I like her, good friend, but she's a total shitlib, And she was worried. I was talking to her a couple months ago, and she was, with the upcoming election, and she was all worried about the rise of fascism in America and yada yada yada. And I asked her to give me an example of what she means. Okay, and in what ways is fascism rising in America? And she's like, well, think back to Stalin. And she started to go on. And I'm like, wait, Stalin? Was Stalin fascist? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, he was a Bolshevik. What are you talking about? She's like, oh, maybe I'm thinking of Lenin. And then I just had to kind of walk away from that because I'm like, okay, it became clear to me that fascism just equals bad thing in her head,
Yes.
Anything bad, that's fascism.
Right. So. Yeah. And I know a lot of our guys want to, they'll hear Trump will counter signal fascism and they'll be like, rah, 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 whatever. You got to realize that just how much of a little bubble that you live in.
Yeah, exactly.
Both of these things can be true, that we are the vanguard that is driving the culture forward, and also the autistic idiosyncrasies of these various different political ideologies and what may or may not be good or desirable or the history of it or whatever. You can't hold people to discourse on that same level because they don't exist on that level. They haven't spent, especially some of these guys, they don't have time to go spend hours and hours and hours digging deep into weird esoteric philosophy and reading all of the banned books and everything. And I don't expect them to. I don't need them to.
Yeah, I actually had this. I basically had my wife and I were out on a date a month and a half ago or something like that, and I ran into this exactly where I was talking about. She was asking me about some news thing where she's a total normie politically, which is good. And I forgot to hide my power level a little bit, and I had offhandedly made, reference to the fact that I'm in several group chats with like Wignats and Nazis and fascists, like people who actually identify as that. I'm like, the look on her eyes, like, she was just like horrified, and I'm like, oh shit, I forget that I'm kind of existing in a bubble here. And she wasn't worried about like, oh, they have bad thoughts or whatever. She was worried that I was going to get like swatted or something. But still, I forget that things like, Nazi still has a lot of sting for normies.
Yeah. Even that is, I wonder if I could pull this up real quick, because I had a bookmark that I wasn't planning on getting into, but it fits what we're talking about right here. Oh, well, maybe. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I broke containment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was a thing that I saw just recently about the younger generations, and it was something having to do with Nazis or Hitler or something like that. See if we can get the stream demonetized here. Send us super chats, folks.
Yeah, right. Gas them.
Yeah. Okay, here you go. This one from Polling USA. Those who said Hitler had some good ideas. 11% of the population. 18 to 29, 21%. 30 to 49, 16%. 50 to 64, 7%. 65 plus 5%. Black Americans, 21%. You thinking what I'm thinking? This project, you guys are going to love it. Hispanic Americans, 19%. White Americans, 9%. So the younger generations are, 21%, so 1 in 5, but that's a whole lot more than 1 in 20. This is the Nuremberg regime is dying. People are breaking out of that, and it's not like Cooper and I talked about this extensively while we were on the road about
they're breaking out of the Nuremberg.
Yes, yeah. We talked about how we're like had a nuanced conversation about Uncle Hortler, and
if you stare into the sun long enough, did you know that you'll see Hortler?
The black hole.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, so like, it's not like it's not like we're here saying we need to completely rehabilitate the reputation of Uncle Hortler. He did a lot of things, a lot of bad things. He made some crucial errors, but at the same time, like, we live in a world that lionizes FDR and Churchill, and even wants to soften the reputation of Stalin. So to say that Hitler had some good ideas, really, in the scheme of things, isn't all that radical. It shouldn't be. And we've got the younger generations who are breaking out of this whole like really arbitrary regime that's been imposed upon us. Go listen to Martyr Made on Jay Burden. They covered this perfectly. The way that this regime has existed and why it has, and why it's going away and what that means. Very, very good conversation. The younger generations, and this is going to happen fast. If you've been listening to Stormy talking to Jason, he's mentioned I can't remember the number for it. There's the name for it. When a new trend is developing, this works in products, it works in ideas, it works in politics. When there's a new trend developing, there's a threshold that once it crosses a certain number of acceptance, like if you're selling a product and you get to a certain point where X number of people or X percentage of people are now on board, buying, consuming that thing, like that's the point where you start getting the exponential growth. That number is 13.5%. It's something like Edwards' theorem or something. I can't remember exactly what the name of it is. 13.5%. Once something reaches the threshold of 13.5%, it goes from like 10 people know about it. When 10 people know about it, then 100 people will know about it. When 100 people know about it, then 1,000 people will know about it. 1,000 to 10,000, all the way up. Once you hit 13.5% of the population, the curve hockey sticks. We're at 11% according to this this survey here. 11% and 21% of the younger generations. So this, if you have 21% of the younger generations who are willing to say Hitler had some good ideas, you have no idea what 15 years from now is going to be like.
And even if like that 21% for the younger people, even if you could chalk up, I don't know, let's pick a big number, say 10% of that to just people shit posting on a poll or whatever, that still shows that it doesn't have that sort of like mythological sway over them, that they're willing to be so flippant about it.
Yeah, they're willing to they're willing to shit post in that way. They don't care. They have no reverence for the mythology anymore.
Magoo asked an important question. He says, "Are you saying that once you get to 13%, you get an increase of 50%?" You know, it's funny because while you were saying that, I was like, "Oh man, there's a joke in here somewhere."
Yeah, and Magoo found it.
Yeah,
a couple others did here too. Shawnee Mac. Okay, so in the past, they used to send old Barry O out to chastise people into falling into line, and everyone loved him and adored him and thought he was great, so they would fall into line. That doesn't happen anymore. You've got Stephen A. Smith, who has become a political commentator, apparently. Listen to this.
Who is that? I don't know who it is.
He's a sports shock jock, kind of. Like his whole thing has been to be he's a sports ball guy, basketball primarily. There's a whole like Pardon the Interruption and some of these shows around the horn that are it's just normie tier sports slop, but they're all like provocative and edgy and they fight and argue and everything. That's what he came out of, but he's been getting into doing more political commentating now. Yeah, loud black sportsman. He's got a massive audience. He's one of the sports ball enjoyers may not appreciate it, but he's one of the most influential people in the world. So this is his response to Obama's comments.
Before I go any further, I want you to hear exactly what this man had to say.
I'm speaking to men directly now. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. That's not acceptable.
Respectfully, President Obama, what you said is not acceptable. Is it possible that the only reason some black folks may not be inclined to vote, or they may be a bit disenchanted, or dare I say may even be willing to go as far as voting for Trump, is it possible that it's policy as opposed to misogyny, inflation, the cost of living, the price of gas, the price of groceries, that don't matter? Immigration and our borders, and this belief that there's an elevated level of sensitivity towards them, as opposed to black folks struggling, if not starving in this country. Yes, that plays a role too. When the mayor of New York was talking about $53 million in prepaid credit cards for immigrants who came across our borders illegally and having prepaid credit cards for them. And I said, wait a minute, black folks starving for years, we ain't get that. You don't think they notice?
So it sounds like based Al Sharpton. He is about as normie tier as you can get. This is the video. Okay, it was screen froze. Okay, video worked. It is about as normie tier as it gets, and that's what's significant about this, is that you've got completely normie tier sports ball guy who feels emboldened enough to talk about this in this way publicly. He would have been absolutely dragged and canceled just a couple of years ago for this. But the Overton window has shifted massively, where now it's becoming fashionable to shit on Obama as a black guy speaking to a completely normie audience, a normie shit libby audience. This is happening really, really fast. I didn't predict that we would get this like before the election. I thought it would happen more after the election. But what we're seeing is Trump is being installed. Trump is the mainstream option. Everyone is falling in line behind it. The evidence is everywhere.
The Dems didn't hand over enough Gibbs. Hey, man, whatever gets your foot through the door.
Sure, right. I am more than happy for our guys to set up patronage networks to give the Gibbs. If that's what it takes to get into power, so be it. Yeah, the patronage networks are bankrupt, and this is how.
I wish politicians would just like offer me things, just like I'm gonna give you $10,000. Like, okay,
and that's how politics used to be done. Like,
yeah,
just straight up.
What are you gonna give me? Like,
Yeah,
I'll give you a house. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the king.
Sure.
I'm the king. You, my would-be lord, I will. If you will give me your armies and your support, then I will give you a manor, and we'll go hunting every quarter. Okay.
Deal.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's more honest.
Right. And that's the great thing about Trump is he's perfectly happy to play that game. He knows how to play that game. He will win that game every time. This goes to like the no fucking blackpilling idea. Number one, all the people who spurged out were spurging out constantly about things like these immigrants and the free monies being given to them and everything. Like, yeah, it's worth spurging out about. Like, it's bad. Everyone should raise hell about it. But you also got to recognize the effect of this. Now we're seeing the consequence of that. The regime is like, oh, we're going to import all of these illegals and we're going to give them debit cards with $10,000 and buy them houses and give them cars and do all this stuff for them to the detriment of their own coalition. Because now they have all of their other people who exist in this coalition for the sake of the Gibbs. Well, why am I not getting those Gibbs? This gives them a lot of sympathy for what's going on in North Carolina. Like, I didn't get my Gibbs. You didn't get your Gibbs.
Yeah.
So why do we have any loyalty to these people anymore? That switch can flip real fast. We're watching it flip in real time. Here's another one.
Hey, Barack Obama, as a black man, this must be sad, man. Fuck you, fuck Kamala Harris, and fuck the Democratic Party. We vote for Trump, right?
This message is for Barack. Ain't never the fuck ass thing for niggas in the 8 years he was in the White House ever. Obama. Keep black men's name out your motherfucking mouth.
Man, if you want to sit your biscuit head ass down somewhere, goofy looking motherfucker, like Slender Man looking motherfucking ass, like anybody trying to listen to you, bro, you didn't get the memo. The community ain't fucking with you, dog. We ain't fucking with you. We ain't got 2 words for you. Yes, we do. High and by. We are not fucking with you, B.O.
So they sent Obama to come get us and bring us back to the Democratic plantation. They sent Obama back to come get us. He insulted us. He said, I was highly offended when he said the only reason we voting for Donald Trump is because we don't want a woman in president, so we come up with, yo, nigga, shut up. Shut up.
Democrats then unleashed Barack Obama into the wild to shame black men for not supporting Kamala Harris, despite the fact that she's yet to unveil any policies that represent our interests. Why is it okay for Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, and all these other people that supposedly look like me, why is it okay for them to get on TV and shame me for not voting for them simply because they look like me? That shit is racist, brother.
Barack Hussein Obama. The audacity of you to say to us that we are required and we better vote for Kamala Harris and that we don't want to see a woman in a position of power. You're a liar.
This message is for President Obama. First and foremost, you're not going to tell me what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. Number one, I ain't going to vote for Kamala Harris. I think that she's going to make a bad president. She's a bad vice president. Everything she does, she tries to politicize it, and she hasn't shown the fact that she wants to put America first ever. So I'm not voting for.
You know, I was going to say after we got done with this, can we watch that again with subtitles? Because I can't understand shit. And the one guy who they actually have subtitles for is the whitest one there with the cowboy hat on. Yeah, who's the white dude in the hat?
Yeah. He's very well spoken, isn't he?
He could be president. Look how articulate he is.
Yeah, he's really going places. Duff said, "Hey Matt, Will went to early vote today and said that all the jigs in sight were wearing Trump shirts and hats." Oh, yeah. Remember when everyone was joking about how the Trump mugshot was gonna boost his black turnout numbers? Turns out that they were right. As soon as he became a felon, they were all about him.
That's because this is from Black Twitter Coop. They need country translation. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So it's going the other way. Black people are like, what's this white dude saying?
Hello, fellow black people.
that individual. Secondly, I think that it's really sad that you would come out against black men and actually degrade them because they're not picking the person that you want them to vote for.
You all brought up Barack Obama to try to get us black men back to the demonic Democratic Party. Behalf of all the men who are educated, who have learned their lesson, and was burned by the Democratic Party, we want nothing to do with the Democratic Party. We stand with Donald J. Trump.
Trump. Yeah, you got to like really get your lips in it. Trump.
You know, and the way I can tell that these people, or at least some of them, I didn't listen to all of them, but I caught it on the last one, is that they actually were Democrats, as they referred to the party as the Democratic Party.
That's a good point. That's
in group speak.
Yeah.
Republican people on the right call it the Democrat Party.
Mm-hmm. My lips aren't big enough. Yeah. Now this might be the craziest of all.
Get some Botox or something.
Yeah. Do you like
injections.
You get the vacuum hose and you put it on your lips for a while?
Yeah, you get like a penis pump and like it's on your face. Put your lips in the tube.
Where do you get one of those, Cooper?
I don't know. No idea. Cirillas on Saginaw Highway, I guess.
Of all of these clips, though, this might be the most unhinged. Watch this.
Boil this election down in the African American community to a very simple a reference to great Malcolm X. This race is between House African Americans and field African Americans, and the field African Americans are going for Donald Trump. I'm talking about your men. I'm talking about your men who build, your men who put things together, your men who work with their hands, your men who do things, not the men who push paper, or the men who are connected to power and want to continue to be connected to power.
Are you denigrating African American men who are professionals who work in white collar jobs? Is that what I'm hearing from you, or
no?
I'm just trying to understand, is Shelley the House one or the field one? I'm just trying to understand that part. I'm just trying to understand.
Boil this election down in the African American community to a very simple.
Is she supposed to be black?
I was wondering the same thing.
Like, I guess maybe her hair looks a little nappy, I guess. But like, he says House African Americans and field African Americans. I wish he would have just said it with his chest. Imagine that clip. Imagine how viral that would have gone if he would have actually used the word that was in his head instead of saying African Americans. And she's like, wow. The narrative has exploded. The I don't know, the reservation, the plantation gates are opened. They're streaming out. The Democrat Party is in shambles. It is absolutely caving in on itself. All of the little patronage groups are like, sayonara. We are headed out. We're going to go over to the orange guy because that's where things are happening. Another interesting endorsement for Trump. First of all, this is the video being referenced. Trump says, "We will not have a woke military."
You little scumbag! I got your name! I got your ass! You will not laugh! You will not cry! You will learn by the numbers!
Happy Pride. Happy Pride Month, and actually, let's declare it a summer of pride.
So you're a killer! Sir, yes, sir! Let me see your war face! Sir, you got a war face? Ah! That's a war face! Now let me see your war face! Ah! Bullshit! You didn't convince me! Let me see your real war face! Ah!
I hear it and I know I know you wanna take.
You will be a weapon. You will be a minister of death, praying for war. But until that day, you are puke. You are the lowest form of life on earth. You are not even human fucking beings. You are nothing but unorganized, grabastic pieces of amphibian shit.
How to abracadabra, these bitches know I got answers the way I.
It looks to me like the best part of you ran down the crack of your mama's ass and ended up as a brown stain on the mattress. I love working for Uncle Sam.
banger of an ad. So obviously this is
drag, man. Yuck.
Yeah, right.
Yuck.
Yeah, and then the Trump campaign, past Trump campaigns didn't go anywhere near this hard. You could tell who's making the videos for him, putting these together like this. So obviously these are clips from Full Metal Jacket, directed by one Stanley Kubrick. And Vivian Kubrick tweeted this, because there was a whole big hullabaloo about him using Stanley Kubrick stuff in this. And this is what she had to say. To those who think my father wouldn't have wanted Trump to use FMJ footage, here are my thoughts. I agree in principle that an anti-war movie is incongruous with promoting the idea of a tough, non-woke U.S. military and thus war itself. However, these are very dangerous and strange times, and thus using this footage is doubtless pure expedience. Because I'm sure the irony of using FMJ footage is not lost on Trump or his team. Trump is always seeking to end wars and use peaceful methods. However, that's primarily what FMJ is about, the shocking and complicated paradoxes of human nature. And thus, on this tooth and claw planet, you need a very strong military. So I'm going to stick with the idea that FMJ footage was used primarily because of its powerful, realistic portrayal of boot camp, juxtaposed with the entirely demoralizing and inappropriate injection of woke ideology into the USA military, which I agree with myself and which I'm certain my father would have agreed with. Truthfully, I believe my father, who supported Reagan, would very much approve of saving America, indeed the world, from the highly destructive globalist forces threatening to take over this planet. And if that footage from FMJ helps Trump make the point that the U.S. military needs properly trained, super tough, focused, dedicated warriors, and not introduce the demoralizing effects of wokeism and attracting people to join up simply to have their sexual reassignments paid for, then Trump has my blessing. Finally, knowing my father very well, I can assure you he had a profound grasp of how paradoxical human nature is, which accounts for how at the same time he made anti-war films, he had a great passion for guns, self-defense, not hunting, and he had quite a few. My father had great respect for life, his movies being unimpeachable evidence of his love for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So on that basis, I feel very confident he would be a Trump supporter and would forgive using FMJ incongruously if it helps the cause of freedom. Capiche? And she tags Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Michael Flynn, Dan Scavino, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Eric Trump, and Donald Trump Jr. So the Stanley Kubrick's daughter has now endorsed Trump. In case you were wondering just how far along this we are. Now, Ian Carroll sent this to me. I haven't seen this yet. He mentioned it in the chat, so I pulled it up. I heard about this. Even this idiot gets it. You recognize this fat, dumpy lesbian?
Is
Michael
that the one
Moore
who said that Florida
Donald
would
Trump.
be in the ocean like 20 years ago?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Came to the Detroit Economic Club and stood there in front of the Ford Motor executives and said, if you close these factories as you're planning to do in Detroit and build them in Mexico, I'm going to put a 35% tariff on those cars when you send them back, and nobody's going to buy them. It was an amazing thing to see. No politician, Republican or Democrat, had ever said anything like that to these executives. And it was music to the ears of people in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. He's saying the things to people.
How does it feel to have Michigan constantly lumped in with Ohio? I know you have strong feelings about Ohio.
Like, I hate Ohio. I really do. You know, but I'll extend a little bit of they've suffered a similar plight as my home state. Just all of the Rust Belt. So in that sense, I guess we can come together.
Yeah. Even the
I
worst
still hate
of
Ohio.
enemies.
Fuck Ohio, man. Yeah, like 1,000-year blood feud. That's what I want with Ohio.
Oh, you fighting words for Ian.
Yeah, we can just like go back and forth fighting over Detroit and Toledo. Actually, you can have Detroit.
I was
going
gonna
to
say, yeah.
Just dump it in the ocean, okay?
Yeah.
Give me my state back. Yeah. We'll just go take more of Wisconsin from the Upper Peninsula.
You're gonna be fighting over who has to take Detroit and Toledo, like constantly pushing them back and forth to each other.
No, you have really, you have it. Yeah, you take it.
We're hurting. And it's why every beaten down, nameless, forgotten working stiff who used to be part of what was called the middle class loves Trump. He is the human Molotov cocktail that they've been waiting for.
the human hand grenade that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them. Although they lost their jobs, although they've been foreclosed on by the bank, next came the divorce, and now the wife and kids are gone, the car's been repoed, they haven't had a real vacation in years, they're stuck with a shitty Obamacare bronze plan where you can't even get a fucking Percocet. They've essentially lost everything they had, except one thing. The one thing that doesn't cost them a cent and is guaranteed to them by the American Constitution, the right to vote. They might be penniless, they might be homeless, they might be fucked over and fucked up, it doesn't matter, because it's equalized on that day. A millionaire has the same number of votes as the person without a job, one. And there's more of the former middle class than there are in the millionaire class. The dispossessed will walk into the voting booth, be handed a ballot, close the curtain, and take that lever, or felt pen or touchscreen, and put a big fucking X in the box by the name of the man who has threatened to upend and overturn the very system that has ruined their lives. Donald J. Trump. They see that the elites who ruined their lives hate Trump. Corporate America hates Trump. Wall Street hates Trump. The career politicians hate Trump. The media hates Trump. Trump's election is going to be the biggest fuck you ever recorded in human history.
Damn, that does go hard. I can't believe that yeah, Moore's still a worm. Am I siding with Michael Moore? Someone up here said that CB said Rachel Maddow has really let herself go. Thanks, Ian. That was good. All right. A lot of people talked about this clip, but I had to throw it in here because I had it bookmarked. In case you didn't realize, this is a while back, but Elon went on Tucker. Very good conversation. This is at the very beginning. And this is funny because they talk for the first couple of minutes, and then Tucker turns to his producers and says, all right, we need to go live. And they're like, we're already recording. And then their whole demeanor just completely changes. They both get really serious and a lot more straight faced, but they're joking around here at the beginning. But this gives you a sense, like, yeah, they're joking, but this is the way that Elon sees the stakes of what he's doing.
You're fucked, dude. I'm fucked.
If he loses, I'm fucked.
It does seem that way. You can't just be like, yo,
Yeah, I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Will I see my children? I don't know.
Because it's not like you can say, well, yeah, I maxed out to him, but, I get...
I have no plausible deniability.
So this was a big thing that happened while I was out. The Tesla had a big old, I don't even know what you'd call it, a convention in Burbank, and the aesthetics that came out of this were just next level. So they announced a bunch of new products that they have coming and showed them in action. We're going to watch some of those videos and talk about them a little bit. But first of all, rides in the city of the future. Check out the vibe on this. Kino. So the Wii Robot event had 19 cyber cabs and 29 Model Ys driving themselves, 1,300 trips transporting over 2,000 guests, continuous operation over the 3.5 hours, and every trip was perfectly safe. So here's some more videos now of the sorts of things that they announced. The future is autonomous. Event starts now. So the event was streamed on here. Here's one of the first products that they brought out, the Robo-Taxi. The volume's low. It'll be better in a minute. Now notice on the robo-taxi here, there are no mirrors and no handles on the doors. This is a fully autonomous vehicle. This vehicle, the robo-taxi here, has been designed for, it's not designed to be driven at all. It's designed to be fully autonomous from the ground up. It's so clean. The gull wing doors. This is just like, I mean, imagine being one of the wealthiest men in the world and you get to go do this event showing off all of your cool toys. Meanwhile, like this, was it the same weekend or within a couple of days, you also had the big SpaceX event where they brought the rocket back down and caught it? Like the tower with the thing sticking out that caught the rocket, which is a huge step in being able to reuse rockets. Elon Musk is just a generational businessman. The number of different companies that he's running all at once and staying actively involved in is unfathomable. Elon has taken on the innovate over refinement. I think that's why he's skyrocketed. Other businesses can't handle PR of making mistakes. Elon has it ingrained in identity with optimism. Rolls off back. Yeah.
Transport today, there's a lot of kind of pain that we take for granted that we think is normal. Like having to drive around LA in like 3 hours of traffic. Yeah, people that live in LA, I mean, you know, try to get from Pasadena to, you know, El Segundo during rush hour is like, you can fly to, you know, another city faster than you can get to across town LA. So, and you have to drive the whole way. Unless you're in a Tesla, of course. Tesla already does quite well at this, you know, supervised self-driving. So supervised full self-driving is actually working quite well. I'm sure there's people in the crowd, you're using that, yeah? So we'll move from supervised full self-driving to unsupervised full self-driving, where the car, you could fall asleep and wake up at your destination. So, but there's also...
Now notice what he emphasizes with this. This is, you get a few, in these videos here, you're going to get a few different peeks at the sorts of things that, the scale that he's thinking on and the types of things that he's trying to promote. It's not just about developing a really cool product or doing some, you know, like legendary innovation. Notice what he emphasizes here.
A challenge for a lot of people that cars cost too much. I mean, when you factor in everything that goes into a car and the car insurance, the car payments, and the storage of the car, it's very expensive. So with, and you say like how many hours a week are cars used? Your average passenger car is only used about 10 hours a week out of 168 hours. So the vast majority of the time, cars are just doing nothing. But if they're autonomous, they could be used, I don't know, 5 times more, maybe 10 times more. So you could actually, for the same car, would have 5 times as much value, maybe 10 times as much value. There's 168 hours in the week, and like I said, only 10 of them are used for driving. So, and then a bunch of those hours are looking for a parking spot, which is, you know, can be pretty annoying at times. So we want, with autonomy, you get your time back. This is a very big deal.
Here you go.
So it's not just like it'll save lives, like a lot of lives, and prevent injuries. I think we'll see autonomous cars become 10 times safer than a human. I mean, if you think of times past where there used to be an elevator operator in every elevator, but once in a while they get tired and they accidentally shear somebody in half, you know. So now we have automated elevators. You just get an elevator and you press a button, and you don't even think about it. And it just takes you to the floor. And if you did see an elevator operator with a big relay switch, you'd be like, that's weird. Now that's how cars will be. And it's not just the lives saved in injuries, but if you think about the cumulative time that people spend in a car and the time that they will get back, that they can now spend, well, I guess on their phones or watching a movie or doing work or whatever you want to do. You can think of the car in an autonomous world as being like just a little lounge. You're just sitting in a comfortable little lounge, and you can do whatever you want while you're in this comfortable little lounge. And when you get out, you will be at your destination. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. So,
the idea of the time that can be saved. This is like found time for people. So not just it's not just like the convenience or the safety or the cool like whiz bang features or like having a car that drives me around, but being able to the sorts of productivity gains that will be available. A lot of people, like, he kind of chuckles a little wryly and is like, people just gonna play on their phone probably. But Dust says he didn't hear a single word he said. Was it too quiet? Could you hear it, Cooper?
Yeah, I could hear it.
Okay. Being at like the time that the found time here with something like this is going to be significant for the right people who want to take advantage of it. A lot of people are just going to take a nap, or they're just going to scroll through Instagram or something like that. But the sound is fine. Okay. This is the sort of thing that's very interesting to me about Elon, that he thinks about these things in this sort of a way. $5 Canadian from Slosher. He says the level of delusion and envy of people online who say they could do what Elon does if they inherited as much money as him is hilarious. Yeah, he's being able to run one company that's super innovative and forward thinking, and it takes risks the way that any of Elon's companies does would make someone a generational CEO. And he's doing it on what, like 6? He has Starlink, SpaceX, Tesla, X, Boring Company, and I think there's one more. I can't remember. Slosher said, where'd this go here? He said, you could rent your car out, have it drive like an Uber for you. And, even more than that, what I think is probably going to happen for a lot of people who live in more urban, or even, it would even work in suburban areas, is you don't actually own a car. Like, you don't actually buy one. There's just a massive network of these fully autonomous vehicles driving around. That's what he gets in, I think, in a later video that I have here, that you don't even have to actually own the car and deal with maintenance and upkeep and like getting a loan and all of that. You just are like subscribed to a service, and you just order the car to come pick you up and drive you around and do your stuff. And I mean, this is going to change infrastructure. It's going to change the way that houses are built. It's going to change. This is taking the automotive industry and using it to transform just about everything else. I know a huge number of people, like the vast majority of the population in the country is in cities and towns. So the vast majority of the population is potentially a customer for something like this. Of course, there's going to be the people who don't want to live that way. They're, I want my car and I want whatever, like Cooper, yeah. But a massive number of people are going to be all aboard something like this. This is taking Uber to the next level. One of the things that Cooper and I talked about this last week while we were driving is one of my biggest pet peeves driving is when I'm sitting at a left turn light, or even at any stoplight, and the light turns green, and the first person pulls away, and then the second person pulls away, and then the third person pulls away, and then the fourth person pulls away, and then the fifth person pulls away, and you're like 16th down there. You can see the light turned green. I should be able to start driving the instant the light turns green. Every single person should all start moving forward at the same time. But people are retarded. They don't know how to drive. They're not paying attention. So we do this like staggered, slow pull away, where some lights that are timed poorly means you have to sit through multiple iterations of the light just because people are retarded. I fully endorse autonomous vehicles for the vast majority of people.
Okay, you know what? You sold me on that. That's fair. The vast majority of people, okay. For me, though, I want my 6-speed Honda Civic. Leave me alone.
And think about how much more enjoyable your 6-speed Honda Civic is going to be when everyone driving around you is an extremely competent driver because they're not driving. You don't have to deal with women drivers or Asian drivers or jigaboo drivers. You don't have to deal with the lunacy of most people operating the most expensive piece of heavy machinery they're ever going to come near. They're like, imagine just taking your average person and putting them in like an excavator or something. Yeah, that's a terrible idea. They have
excavator.
Shout out to Blippy. But we just give people driver's licenses and they drive around in cars and they like can barely tie their shoes and yet they're behind this 2,000-pound hunk of metal hurtling down the road. I fully endorse this vision of the future.
I have to argue with Bryce. No roundabouts. I don't want roundabouts.
Now you can get roundabouts with these.
What happens with roundabouts is you get old people. It doesn't matter if the roundabout's been there for 30 years, like the one I grew up around that's like 10 minutes from my house. Doesn't matter. You still get old people who've lived here that entire 30 years who go up to the roundabout and they stop. And then they move to the next little part of the circle where people come in and they stop. And then they go around to the next one and they stop. And they end up making like 4 stops in the circle. Gas them.
Really good point here from Straight Buster. He says, you don't have to have a daily driver and a truck for truck stuff. You can just have the truck and a subscription. Yeah. And for most people, that's all they need. Think about how much money gets flushed away by people in especially debt that they don't need to take on because they have to have a car. I have to have a car. I have to be able to drive something. And the only thing available to me is to go get a car loan and buy a car to spend 90% of its life sitting in my garage. And it just is the hour to work, an hour back or whatever that the car actually gets used. This is a huge waste of resources. It's an unnecessary financial burden for most people. Imagine if you could pay, I don't know, $100 a month. And you have a car at your beck and call anytime you want it. You just pull your phone out, you call the car shows up at your front door, you hop in, tell it where you wanted to go, and then you sit there and you catch up on emails or call someone on the phone or do whatever, hanging out in this nice luxurious car as it drives you to wherever you need to be. You could keep it for a short period of time or long period of time, go this place, that place, whatever. There's no reason why the majority of people need to own a car that they have in their garage at all times.
Yeah. I am totally happy just dropping 20 grand on a brand new 6-speed Honda Civic. That is mine and only mine. And I drive it whenever I want. I burn a bunch of gas and throw pollution in the ocean and fuck turtles and whatever. That's what I want. That is what I want, man. I'm an American and this is a free country and I get what I want.
And see, there's nothing that prevents you from that. That's what's great about this. Is if you still want to have your 6-speed Honda Civic, like I wouldn't go to strictly this model. I might use the model. It might mean I don't need to buy a second car.
You could ride your stupid autonomous Tesla all the way up from Texas and take 25,000 hours to do it so you could drive my 6-speed Honda Civic because you miss pushing a clutch in. You miss the magic.
I don't miss it.
Oh, you do. You do. Just wait till you get behind it. And then you're like, oh man, I missed this. This is what my soul was missing.
You know what I really enjoyed was being able to go from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and pass anybody on a whim.
I'll admit the 0 to 60 or the 40 to 90 or whatever I was doing. That was pretty cool. It does not make up for the fact that you have to stop and charge every 2 hours. That's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that was a function of it being an old one. It was an older one with a shorter range.
You have to stop every 2.5 hours or every 3 hours, whatever. That's still too much. That's too much. I want to drive for like 8 hours at a time. I've got a Gatorade bottle that I can put my doink in and piss in it, and I don't have to stop. And then I can just throw it out the window at the truck stop or whatever, like the other truckers, and I can just chain smoke and keep going.
Yeah, give it 10 years, and you're that's a young man's game.
Instead of having to do 2 hours, or excuse me, 2 days of driving and stopping and driving and stopping and charging, yada yada yada, for you to get from Texas to Michigan, I could do that whole thing in just one go.
Yes, I could do that whole thing in one go as well. I've done Seattle to
but it would take
Chattanooga,
you like 40 hours.
and it fucking sucked.
Yeah, whatever. You don't get it.
Oh,
You're
I get
old,
it.
man.
That's the point. That's the point. I'm getting old. It's when you're in your 20s,
like,
it's fun to
You're
just
like 35. You're 35. You're getting old. You should be in the prime of your life. What are you talking about, dude?
I'm getting old.
Wow.
Robotaxi.
I think the cost of autonomous transport will be so low that you can think of it like individualized mass transit. The average cost of a bus per mile for a city, not the ticket price because that is subsidized, but the average price is about $1 a mile. Whereas the cost of cybercab, we think probably over time, from the operating cost is probably going to be around 20 cents a mile. So when we think about transport today, and price, including taxes and everything else, probably ends up being 30 or 40 cents a mile. So yes, and you will be able to buy one. Yes, exactly. And we expect the cost to be below $30,000. I think
So I think what they're going to be building out is this the robotaxi being able to, like, number one, you're going to have people who will have robotaxi businesses or cybercar or whatever they're going to call it. It'll be people who have that business that they buy them and then other people rent them out. Or you could be the one who owns it and you keep it at your house, but then on off hours or whatever, you just have it signed up on the network, and it could be other people can hail it and they can go use it and bring it back, and you're just earning passive income on it. And you don't, so you could be an Uber driver while you're at home working. You just have your car gets hailed and it gets called away to someone goes and they do their thing or whatever, and they bring it back, and you just made money while you were working, making money.
Do you think I'm allowed to smoke a cigar inside of the robotaxi?
You will be allowed to smoke it in mine.
Okay.
I can't vouch for everyone else. No driver fee, no expensive radar or LiDAR equipment. Full self-driving uses cameras alone. Call it once and it's yours as long as needed for quick trips or all day. Will be less than $30K when purchased. Humans get distracted. Cameras and neural nets do not. FSE is trained on billions of miles of real-world video data from our fleet of greater than 8 million vehicles. So check this out here. And this is just, the way they've done this all is just brilliant. They've been building up all of this data from all of this drive time to train their robotaxi fleet on.
So one of the reasons why the computer can be so much better than a person is that we have millions of cars that are training on driving. So it's like living millions of lives simultaneously and seeing very unusual situations that a person in their entire lifetime would not see. But hopefully, yeah, exactly. So with that amount of training data, it's obviously going to be much better than what a human could be, because you can't live a million lives. And it's also, it can see in all directions simultaneously, and it doesn't get tired or text or any of those things. So it will naturally be, like I said, 10, 20, 30 times safer than a human, just for those reasons. And I want to emphasize that the solution that we have is AI and vision. So there's no expensive equipment needed. So the Model 3 and Model Y and S and X that we make today will be capable of full autonomy unsupervised. And that means that our cost of producing the vehicle is low.
Can you turn it up, Matt?
We are going to actually
That's as high as I can get it.
The computer for the Cybercab. So our AI5 computer will be somewhat overspec'd. And because I think there's actually also an opportunity, sort of like in Amazon Web Services, where if the car's driving for 50 hours a week, there's still over 100 hours left. And there's a potential there to have a massive amount of distributed inference compute, where if you've got, like, say, a fleet of 100 million vehicles and a kilowatt of efficient inference compute, you have 100 gigawatts of compute, which is really quite substantial. And if it's there, you might as well use it. So yeah, so that I think will make sense. So
you can see him go full Spurg there for a minute.
Yeah, I saw that.
I just want to shout out what Suit and Tie Guy said here. If you work all the time and all your travel is for work, you absolutely want to take your time driving because it's your only vacation. Exactly. That's and honestly, my as it was stopping every 2.5 hours or so, my back was barking. So being able to me, this is the best possible way to do a road trip. You just plan on it. You drive for 2 or 2.5 hours. You stop. You take a leak. You stretch your legs. You smoke a cigarette. Maybe grab a bite to eat or something, and then you hop back in, you drive for another 2 or 3 hours, and then you hop out, stretch your legs, walk around, kind of see some things, smoke a cigarette, hop back in again. The best road trip that I've ever taken. So much better than the just sitting there and turning your blinders on and just blurring down the road for 8 hours nonstop. I've done that. I lived that life, and I have no desire to live it again.
That's how I love to live life. That's what I like. That's what I'm about. Every 2.5 hours, torture, man. Torture.
Bryce says, is this geared for larger cities? I'm sure that's where it's going to start out, but I don't see any reason why this can't be useful even in smaller cities, 50,000, 20,000, 10,000 people. I don't see why you can't have this like penetrate basically everything. What it will require is a massively improved grid, which gets into all of the other reasons behind the installment of Trump, is the necessity of upgrading American infrastructure. There's a lot of people with a lot of money dependent upon America having a competent, functional ability to maintain its own defense and economy.
One of the reasons why...
All of these sorts of things that millions and millions of people are going to want are going to require massive boosts to the existing infrastructure. And that's not going to happen. And it's clear to everyone that that's not going to happen under any sort of continued dominance of the Democrat Party. Another one here.
Something we're also doing is, and it's really high time we did this, is inductive charging. So the robotaxi has no plug. It just goes over the inductive charger and charges. So yeah, it's kind of how it should be.
For the smooth brains out there, inductive charging means wireless charging. So it doesn't have a plug. It just has some basically like the way you wirelessly charge your phone. You could wirelessly charge your car. I cannot wrap my mind around the sheer level of innovation that is required to build all of this stuff. There's no one else that's anywhere close to it.
So one of the things that is really interesting is how will this affect the cities that we live in? And when you drive around a city, or when the car drives you around a city, you'll see there's a lot of parking lots. There's parking lots everywhere, parking garages. So what would happen if you have an autonomous world is that you can now turn parking lots into parks. And so we're taking the ing lot out of parking lot.
Such a dorky joke. But this is someone said earlier here, I think it was a straight buster, someone said earlier that it's boggling his mind how much this is going to change. The idea of parking lots and how much space is wasted on parking lots, and having to go find a place and then just leave your car there, and it might get broken into, you might get stuff stolen, it takes up all the space, it's an eyesore, all that sort of thing. All of that can go away. Obviously, on a long enough horizon, it'll all go away, not necessarily right at first. And these things will have to be parked somewhere, but they're also a lot nicer to look at, and they don't need to be parked somewhere. Because with the sort of innovating that they're doing, with the sophistication of everything they're building out, it would be pretty easy to just, even if you have your own and you're connected to the mobile network or whatever, you have it drop you off and then immediately go to work. And you just tell it what time you're going to want it back. And then it only accepts rides based on the ability to have it back to you at the time that you need it. So if you're going to be stopped for an hour shopping or something like that, it can go drive around and do stuff for an hour and then just comes back and picks you up when you're ready to go. This is like Jetsons stuff. We're living in the future. Less suicide via exhaust hose. Now this one, here's Cooper, where I think the aesthetics on this one is next level.
Okay.
There's a lot of opportunity to create a green space in the cities that we live in.
Look at this thing.
So that would be quite fantastic. Oh, and also, what happens if you need a vehicle that is bigger than a Model Y? The
Art
Robovan-
Deco vibes.
The Robovan is we're going to make this, and it's going to look like that. Now, can you imagine going down the streets and you see this coming towards you? That'd be sick.
That'd be sick.
So this can carry up to 20 people, and it can also transport goods. So you can configure it for goods transport within a city, or transport of up to 20 people at a time. So this is gonna, the Robovan is what's gonna solve for high density. So if you want to take a sports team somewhere, or you're looking to really get the cost of travel down to, I don't know, 5-10 cents a mile, then you can use the Robovan. Some people call it the Robovan, but so yeah.
Elon with his dumb jokes. The Robovan, and he calls it the Robovan.
One of the things that we want to do, and we've seen this with the Cybertruck, is we want to change the look of the roads. The future should look like the future.
It's another interesting thing. Another interesting thing that he is so in tune with the aesthetics and recognizes the importance of aesthetics. Having things that look beautiful, that are just appealing to look at, and the way that affects the soul. We need something that looks beautiful. So this can be used, as it says, it can be adapted to commercial or personal use, school bus, RV, cargo. Like, the dude is going to own the transportation world. Think about how adaptable this is going to be for so many different applications. It's going to be made affordable, and there's going to be such a status symbol associated with it. It already is. Like, the Cybertruck is a total head turner. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, whether you like it or not, you look at it. You stare at it when it comes by. I want to live in the world that he envisions. And then the last one here is Optimus. Now, this is the one that people will probably have the most opinions about, I'd imagine. We'll play this here.
Speaking of robots, so everything we've developed for our cars, the batteries, power electronics, the advanced motors, gearboxes, the software, the AI inference computer, it all actually applies to a humanoid robot. So the same techniques, it's just a robot with arms and legs instead of a robot with wheels. And we've made a lot of progress with the Optimus. And as you can see, we started with someone in a robot suit, sort of down, and then we've progressed dramatically year after year. So if you extrapolate this, you're really going to have something spectacular, something that anyone could own. So you can have your own personal R2-D2 C-3PO. And I think at scale, this would cost something like, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000. Probably less than a car, is my prediction long term. Now, it'll take us a minute to get to the long term, but fundamentally at scale, the Optimus robot, you should be able to buy an Optimus robot for, I think, probably $20,000 to $30,000 long term. So, and what can it do? It can
fuck that,
do anything
dude.
you want. So it can.
What?
No, it's not happening.
What?
Not in my house.
Oh, you don't want one? You don't want one in your house?
I don't want one.
What about outside your house?
I've seen Terminator.
Mowing your lawn for you.
I know how this is going.
Yeah.
Be a teacher, babysit your kids. It can walk your dog, mow your lawn, get groceries, just be your friend, serve drinks, whatever.
Like they're all just like, okay.
It will do.
Like they're sitting there with their family playing board games or whatever, and you've got this death machine like watering the plants behind you. No thanks, man.
I saw someone tweet about like what's going to happen the first time that one of these like squishes some little kid's head like a melon.
Yeah, right. It just malfunctions and pop.
Yeah, like really what this is the commercial front for military technology.
Yeah, right. You know, well, yes, I would be more comfortable with like having a robot in my house if it looked like, I don't know, like a Star Wars robot or like the Jetsons or something where it was like, you know, it's like an arm on wheels or something like that. Like something that doesn't look kind of human.
Uh-huh.
I'd be more okay, like, okay, that's the robot thing over there that does the robot. It's like a Roomba vacuuming my floor. It's like, okay, you can have the little disc on the floor that vacuums up or whatever, and the cat rides on it or whatever. But having like a just blank-faced humanoid thing, like walking through your house at night, fuck that. No, it's not happening.
Your microphone just got all crackly. Try like you might have to try jumping out and jumping back in again.
I'm just gonna jump out and not come back in.
Okay.
Later, guys.
See ya.
And yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I think this will be the biggest product ever of any kind. Yeah. Because I think everyone, of the 8 billion people of Earth, I think everyone's going to want their Optimus buddy.
Cooper shouldn't have insulted the robots. Yeah, they came after him. As soon as he started referencing Skynet, they came after him. Yeah, obvious. Like this is the thing that I think the car stuff, the robotaxi, the Robovin, those things are just like, yeah, there's obviously downsides, but like it's going to just dramatically improve things so much. This here, the downsides are a lot closer to home. Yeah, I'm not a Luddite who's like, oh, you should never invent robots. We can't have robots. They're going to be invented. It's going to happen. Someone's going to do it. And I trust Elon more than just about anybody else who would do it. But I mean, ultimately, it's you can't make an argument against this that isn't applicable in any other Luddite sense. It's going to happen. It's going to be done. Just like any other technology, it's going to have upsides. It's going to have downsides. And really, where I think this is going to be, I don't know. Far be it from me to challenge Elon Musk's foresight and vision. I don't know that a lot of people are necessarily going to want something like this for all the things that he's envisioning, but I think it's definitely going to have a lot of it's going to have broad appeal for certain things, and I think manual labor is really the biggest thing that for simple routinized tasks and that sort of thing. Like the idea of using it as a babysitter is, I find that very hard to believe. Walking your dog, maybe. But honestly, I would rather walk my own dog. Like I enjoy walking the dog. I enjoy going out and going for a walk, and having a robot that'll walk my dog is not a that wouldn't be an improvement in my life. Now, it might mean that there are dogs that get walked who otherwise wouldn't, because the people just don't have time or the desire or whatever. So, that's great. But then a lot of little menial tasks of, like running a cash register or some of those sorts of things, or stocking shelves, having robots do that is, yeah, absolutely. I'm all down for it. We robot. Okay, let's keep this moving. I've got now some thoughts from our vice president. This is going to be a long one, folks. So I mentioned the this conversation that Trump had with the Bloomberg News editor-in-chief John Micklethwaite at the Economic Club of Chicago. We might get more content on this interview here in the future, but I had this one pulled up because of JD's tweet on it. His entire interview is incredible. President Trump walking into the lion's den and reminding the people who've screwed up the country that they're not as smart as they think.
You said, President Trump, at the moment there's a thing called the Trump trade in the markets. Do you know what that is? The Trump trade is very simple. People are betting that your policies are going to drive up debt, They're going to drive up inflation. So they're going to drive up interest rates. Are the investors wrong?
Yeah, I had 4 years no inflation. I had 4 years no inflation.
But that was when you had much.
I had 4 years. It's better than that. And Biden, who has no idea where the hell he is, okay? Biden went 2 years with no inflation because he inherited from me. And then they started spending money like drunken sailors. They spent so much money. It was so ridiculous, the money they were spending. They were spending on the Green New Scam. The Green New Scam, the Green New Deal. You know, it was conceived of by AOC +3. She never even studied the environment in college. She went to a nice college. She came out, she just said, the Green New Scam. She just named all these things.
But President Trump, the issue the markets are looking at the fact you are making all these promises. Latest one was car loans. You're flooding the thing with giving giveaways.
But we're going to grow.
I was actually quite kind to you. I used 7 trillion. The upper estimate is 15 trillion. People like the Wall Street Journal, who's hardly a communist organization,
yeah, but you don't know.
They have criticized you on this as well. You are running up enormous debts.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about
You're trying to turn this. You're trying to turn this.
You've been wrong about
No, you're trying to turn.
Listen to the crowd.
This into debate. There are business people.
But you're wrong. You've been wrong. You've been wrong all your life on this stuff. You've been wrong. Well, let me tell you about currency. You're going jumping a lot of.
Yeah. You've got to go listen to this whole thing. Just look up Trump Economic Club of Chicago. There's a bunch of different versions of it all over YouTube. Very much worth listening to. It's maybe an hour long or so. Trump just dunks all over this guy. Just drops his nuts across his face so many times. This here cracked me up. So Inquirer tweeted out, a pint of Skyline chili flavored graters ice cream is listed on Kroger's site. Here's what's supposed to be in it. Skyline chili flavored ice cream. JD says, President Trump and I will stop this. Our shitposting vice president. So he's done a couple of interviews recently himself and just continually owns the libs. He had this conversation with Martha Raddatz.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. They bragged about opening the border, and now we have the consequences, and we're living with it. We can do so much better, but frankly, we're not going to do better, Martha, unless Donald Trump calls this stuff out. I'm glad that he did.
So was it the only acceptable number of American apartments overrun by criminal gangs is 0. So he said that, and then someone made the meme that he tweeted out. The man is memeing with his own face. Oh man, he has been better than I could have ever dreamed. Here's another one. New York Times reporter Lulu Garcia Navarro sits in silence as J.D. Vance educates her on the labor force participation rate relating to illegal immigration. Let me speed this one up just a little bit. And notice, I'll say this before I start playing it, notice the difference in the lighting here between the lighting on her face and the lighting on his face. This is right after the debate where everyone was commenting on his piercing blues, his piercing A10s, and notice the way that they light up his face.
the reason that there is a housing crisis is that not enough houses have been built.
And that we have 25 million people who shouldn't be here.
Well, I mean, this is the thing.
I think it's both.
I know you do. I don't think that many people who look into this agree with you, but about a third of the construction workforce in this country
So her face is all lit up.
is Hispanic. Of those, a large proportion are undocumented. So how do you propose to build all the housing necessary that we need in this country by removing all the people who are working in construction?
I think it's a
And his face is in shadow. They've got him lit more from the top, so you can't actually see his eyes.
fair question, because we know that back in the 1960s, when we had very low levels of illegal immigration, Americans didn't buy houses, didn't build houses. But of course they did. And I'm being sarcastic, of course, in service of a point, Lulu, the assumption that because a large number of home builders now are using undocumented labor, that's the only way to build homes. I think, again,
The country is much bigger.
Fundamental.
The need is much bigger. I mean, I'm not arguing in favor of illegal immigration. I'm asking how you would deal with the knock-on effect of your proposal to remove millions of people who work in a critical part of the economy.
Well, I think that what you would do is you would take, let's say, for example, the 7 million prime age men who have dropped out of the labor force, and you have a smaller number of women, but still millions of women prime age who have dropped out of the labor force. You absolutely could re-engage folks into the American labor market. This is, I think,
To work in construction?
Of course you could.
I mean, the unemployment rate is 4.1%. Most people
unemployment rate, Lulu, this is important.
But most people who don't work can't work in the regular economy. They're in the military, they're parents, they're sick, they're old. They might not want to work in construction.
The unemployment rate does not count labor force participation dropouts. And again, this is one of the really deranged things that I think illegal immigration does to our society, is it gets us in a mindset of saying we can only build houses with illegal immigrants when we have 7 million, just men, not even women, just men who have completely dropped out of the labor force. People say, well, Americans won't do those jobs. Americans won't do those jobs for below the table wages. They won't do those jobs for non-living wages, but people will do those jobs. They will just do those jobs at certain wages. And think about this from the perspective of an American company, okay? I want them to go searching in their own country for their own citizens. Sometimes people who may be struggling with addiction or trauma, get them re-engaged in American society. We cannot have an entire American business community that is giving up on American workers and then importing millions of illegal laborers. That is what we have thanks to Kamala Harris's border policies. I think it's one of the biggest drivers of inequality. It's one of the biggest reasons why we have millions of people who have dropped out of the labor force. Why try to re-engage an American citizen in a good job if you can just import somebody from Central America who's going to work under the table for poverty wages? It is a disgrace, and it has led to the evisceration of the American middle class.
Just absolutely owns every interaction that he has. So Powerful Mutual Robert Sterling had a great long post on this. But who will pick the cotton? He said, J.D. Vance is one of the most remarkable Americans of our lifetime. The political landscape hasn't seen the likes of his intellectual caliber or rhetorical skills in decades, and we likely won't see it again for decades more. Vance recently sat for an interview with New York Times reporter Lulu Garcia-Navarro and put on a masterclass in effortlessly disarming a combative interviewer. Garcia-Navarro peppered him with one hostile inquiry after another, gotcha questions that rang more like accusations from a prosecutor than probing questions from a legitimate journalist concerning Vance's tone, his changing positions on Trump, and even his beliefs about the 2020 election, to which Vance responded with a level of fluency and calmness that look almost superhuman. If you haven't seen the interview yet, you really need to watch it. At the very least, read the transcript. In total, Vance spoke for 7,280 words, often 200 to 400 words at a time. Each answer he provided was thoughtful, nuanced, and heartfelt, demonstrating a level of introspection and a mastery of policy issues that are both all too rare in today's politics. He did all this with no teleprompter or notes, something that used to be standard for political leaders, by the way, at least prior to 2024, without once stammering, having to pause to come up with a response, talking in a circle, or evading a question, empty platitudes. And he did this against a difficult and skillful career reporter, someone who joined NPR back when Vance was still attending high school in small-town Ohio. This wasn't drinking a beer with Stephen Colbert or sitting down for a friendly chat with Oprah or answering softball questions from a podcast host best known for the Gluck Gluck 9000 oral sex technique. This was walking into the lion's den and showing the world that the lions are actually just house cats with middle-of-the-bell curve IQs. There's nobody like this guy. He's only just getting started, and it's going to be glorious to watch. And there's a quote here. It says, that's interesting. So what I'm hearing you say is that in 2016, you felt the divisiveness in the language was a symptom of perhaps a problem with Donald Trump, and by 2018, you saw it as a solution to the problem? And his response, I'd put it slightly differently. I think that in 2016, I saw the divisiveness in American politics as at least partly Donald Trump's fault. And by 2018, 2019, I saw that divisiveness as the fault of an American political and media culture that couldn't even pay attention to its own citizens. And Donald Trump was not driving the divisiveness. He was merely responding to it and giving voice to a group of people who had been completely ignored. And he was doing it in a way that really did poke his eye, at that diseased media culture. I'll put it this way. I don't know that anybody else in 2016 possibly could have done what Trump did. And I think his rhetoric actually was a necessary part of it. William F. Buckley. Hopefully he winds up with a better trajectory than William F. Buckley. That gigantic flag it. All right. 2 more clips for you guys here. First one. Guys, this cannot express how this TikTok is possibly the single most effective piece of propaganda I've seen in some time. Like, holy shit, it almost got me. Now, I want to. This is an ad for the Bureau of Land Management. I don't have very many good things to say about the Bureau of Land Management, and that's a sad thing. The Bureau of Land Management should be awesome, and look how quickly it could be transformed. Give me a Department of Government Efficiency, put good people in response to or make good people responsible for the Bureau of Land Management, and imagine the absolute vibes of this. Imagine getting a bunch of young guys responding to this, going and working for a Bureau of Land Management that isn't full of a bunch of evil people trying to destroy America. It goes hard. This is so close to us. All of this stuff can change so quickly. Look how much, all these clips that I've played today, look how much things have changed and how quickly. By this time next year, think about how much more they could have changed and what role you can play in changing them. Many, many opportunities are opening up. If you're busy blackpilling, you're not going to make it. Our last clip of the day from the great Thomas 777. A warning to the black pillars.
So the Nobel Committee gave out 3 prizes for economics. One of whom went to this dude at the University of Chicago. All 3 of these guys were neoliberal economists. That doesn't mean that you should go out and have a fucking party or like go down on your wife in celebration of that shit. But it does mean there's been a massive sea change and wokeism is over. Because pretty much without exception, you can set your watch by this shit. The Nobel Committee for Econ, they always hand it to some fucking commie or some Marxist fossil or some dipshit diversity hire. But now they did not do that. The Nobel Peace Prize, ditto, usually goes to some LGBTQ fuckface or some make-believe Indian, like the Feathers kind, not like the 7-Eleven kind. This went to this peacenik group of Japanese who are campaigning for nuclear disarmament, and that's corny these days because nuclear weapons have no utility. However, Japanese, in the estimation of these Nobel people, do not count as some oppressed minority. They're technically the bad guys. And even if nuclear disarmament is stupid, it's a lot more serious than guys cutting their dicks off. This is all around you. This paradigm shift. A shift in the Overton window. So if you want to be a fuckface and say things are worse than they've ever been, you got to get your shit straight.
Get your shit straight. No fucking blackpilling. It's good to be back. The ASTROLABE has returned. I'll be back again tomorrow. More regularly scheduled programming. And I'm not expecting to do any more long trips, at least not for at least a few months. So we should be back to our regularly scheduled programming going forward. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for showing up, for populating the chat, keeping the live chat banging. I appreciate those of you who sent in some super chats. Still got 126 watching and only 65 likes. So as I give you guys Hulk on your way out, please hit the like button. Share the show with someone that you think will enjoy it. Follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. And you can join the Kingpilled Discord at kingpilled.com. That's the place to be. Tomorrow we will have a schizo stream. Everything's back to normal. There will be a schizo stream, and I'm pretty sure, I need to go double check. I probably shouldn't say anything. I'm not just going to say it. I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to watch another episode or two from Tucker Carlson's documentary series. I'm guessing they've probably dropped more episodes by now. If they haven't, we'll come up with something else. But yeah, euthanasia, the schizo streams. And again, we're working on a project over this last week. Be on the lookout for that. If you want the early looks at what's going to happen, and if you want to be a beta tester before we release it to Gen Pop, the place to be is the Kingpilled Discord, kingpilled.com. You can also, if you want to put me on your payroll, you want to send me a little bit of cash to keep the lights on, keep us doing this, buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled is the place for that. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Oh, the last thing, there's a link in the pinned chat that says, tell me what kind of music you like. Go respond to my tweet. What I need to know is, for research purposes, I need to know your top 5 favorite music genres, and then one genre that you will never listen to, no matter what. So click the link in the pinned chat if you're watching live and you haven't done that yet. Or if you're watching this after the fact, then just go down to the comments. You don't have to necessarily go reply to the tweet. If you go post it in the comments, I'll actually see those. I won't see the live chat again, but you can comment on this. Just tell me your 5 favorite genres of music and one genre that you will never listen to at all. And kingpilled.substack.com. Go subscribe over there. We'll be producing more content coming soon there. All the content you can possibly dream of and more. And I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, I give you guys Hulk.
They're my hero. And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again.